What is up, New York Giant fans? It's LockedOn Giants Live with Traina, Entertainah, and the dog as we get you ready for a winning in edition of New York Giants football coming your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the LockedOn Giants podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the games start. Get excited, Giant fans. Winning in here this weekend. And you've got the LockedOn Giants podcast live with Traina, Entertainah, and the dog. We're going to talk about it. The big game this weekend. I'm psyched, man. This is as excited as I have been in so long.
I got to tell you, I hope and pray that the New York Giants just brought the energy that you brought to start this show, because if they do, it's going to be a 10 out of 10 performance, because I'm going to tell you right now, that is the first 10 out of 10 you've given, and it was miraculous. So it's great.
There you go, a playoff-worthy intro. Let's go.
All right. I'm psycho. No, but serious. I'm psyched, guys. I am so excited about this. You know, last week, the Giants, they came close. All right. And I know and there's no such thing as coming close, no medals for trying and all that good stuff. But I feel pretty good about this weekend. And I can't wait to break this all down with you two, as well as with the visitors here in the chat. So thank you, everybody, for stopping by and being a part of the show. We hope you enjoy it. Guys, let's start off with how we're feeling about this weekend. How bad do you think the Giants are going to crush the Colts?
I hope they crush them. I mean, and nothing's ever easy for us. But listen, the Colts are a disaster. I don't even know who their starting quarterback is. I don't know if they're going with Foles. I don't know if they named Foles.
They're going with Foles.
They're going with Foles.
Okay. Well, anybody that watched the game, number one, they're coming off a short week. Anybody who watched that game against Los Angeles saw the Chargers just beat the holy hell out of Foles. It got to him every time. He dropped back pretty much. He threw, 2 or 3 interceptions. They don't have Jonathan Taylor. This is in our building. Win and you're in. There is no reason for this game to be close. And the Giants should be able to win this game by 2 scores. I don't think Wink Martindale is going to have to blitz to get home. And the Colts have nothing to play for. They're playing out the season. They're playing for a draft pick. Their coach isn't very good. We have everything in front of us. If you can't get pumped up for this game, you need to get the hell out of the locker room. Brian Daboll don't need to give any motivational speeches. The playoffs are there. We got a lot of help last week. It would have been nice to win. I beat Minnesota and clinch it there. For the first time all year, I was mad. I was mad that we let that get away, because I thought we should have beat them. I hope we meet them again in the playoffs, because I do think we can beat Minnesota. We damn sure better beat the Colts this week, though. Yeah. I'm ready to go, Patty. I'm ready to go.
I know you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. Bad Dog's getting me pumped up. And listen, I agree with everything Bad Dog said, but I know better. The New York Giants, they don't stomp on anybody. So I'm not taking any team lightly, regardless of the situation. And what Bad Dog just said about the Colts is what scares me the most about the Colts, because they have nothing to lose. This team is coming in here pressure-free. They're gonna play loose. 4th and 4 at the 50-yard line. They're gonna go for it. They got nothing to lose in this game, and this is a game where all the pressure is on the New York Giants. Make no mistake about it. It's a game we should win. It's a game I expect to win. But I know the Giants better than taking any team lightly in the National Football League. As good as we played last week, New York Giants got to duplicate that. They got to find a way to come out with a good performance this week. And the one thing I'll say about the Colts that worries me a bit, their defense looked really good against the Chargers. Their defense looked strong against Justin Herbert. He turned the ball over twice, struggled. I'm not too worried about their offense. I think Wink's going to draw up a good game plan. I'll be really interested to see what we do offensively, because this past week was really the first week from beginning to end that they let Daniel Jones decide that football game. They said, we're not going to run the ball. We're going to win or lose this game with Daniel Jones's arm. I think you're going up against a different defense this week, so I don't expect that much of an open offense. But I'm curious to get your guys' take. Do you think last week was a sign of things to come for the remainder of this season? Do you think the Giants are going to start to open this offense up a bit? I'm not saying Jones is going to throw the ball 45 times every week, but do you think they're going to open this offense up a bit for the remainder of the year and into the playoffs?
I think so. I think you have to. Look, I don't, I've been asked often, have the Giants been holding stuff back, especially down the stretch here for the playoffs? I don't necessarily think that they've been holding stuff back, but I do think that, you're starting to see more and more confidence. That confidence is growing. All the questions that we had about the receivers and could they be functional? And, I get it. They're not true number one, number two, number three guys, but they have been functional for the most part. And I just think that, there's the trust in Daniel Jones is sky high. And, Mike Kafka is probably saying to himself, okay, you know what? This guy's not making mistakes. I'm going to trust him to open things up a little bit more.
I agree. I think it's time. I think Daniel Jones, he'll never, some guys are just going to be detractors no matter what he does. It doesn't really matter. They'll harp on the interception that he threw. And honestly, it wasn't really I didn't think it was a bad throw or bad decision. I thought that the cornerback just made a good play on the ball. Obviously it hurt. We turned the ball over twice inside the 20. Richie James dropped a pivotal third down. I mean, Daniel Jones had they dropped passes on him again. He threw for 330 yards or whatever. I'm thinking to myself, God, if they catch the ball, he probably throws for 380. Yeah. It was nice to see. It was definitely much different than the game plan the week before, where it was a lot of 4-yard passes against Washington. Just drop back, 4-yard dunk, dink this. That time they opened it up. They were going down the field, and Daniel Bellinger dropped a big pass. And I'm just sitting there going, God, can you just help the guy out? But I thought that was the best game Daniel Jones has played in a long time. As far as passing the ball went, I thought he was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The offensive line, Evan Neal struggling a little bit, which worries me.
I don't think he's right physically.
I think he's got something with Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up a quick question to the chat. I actually pulled the chat up today. So I'm in my fantasy championship this week. The guy's got Dak, so I got this up there. I hope Dak sucks. I mean, I hate the Cowboys anyway, so I hope he sucks every day, but I really hope he sucks tonight. I'm in such a predicament. I may be insane. I may be off my rocker. We have Davante Adams, and Davante Adams has been awesome all year, but the last 3 weeks, he's been terrible. And they have Jared Stidham starting, as Derek Carr has done for the year. They're going against San Francisco. I am seriously considering, and I'm not lying about this, starting Isaiah Hodgins over Davante Adams. Am I insane? Because I think Isaiah Hodgins is the number one receiver here, and I do not trust Jared Stidham against that San Francisco defense whatsoever. Davante Adams has scored like 13 points in the last 3 weeks combined. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think Isaiah Hodgins is going to have a good game in this one.
I don't think you're crazy at all. I mean, yes, this Colts defense is probably one of its strengths, that and the special teams, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But no, I don't think you're crazy with that logic.
That would be that's a Brian Daboll's move. That's a Brian Daboll's move.
Are you telling me? Well, I got okay with the guy I own the team with, but I did bring it. I did bring up. The chat's like, go for it, dude. I love the chat. Let's go. I'm ready. I want to do it.
Do it, man.
I just don't trust Stidham against that San Francisco defense whatsoever.
Nor should you. I'll say this about Hodgins, man. Isaiah Hodgins, I don't think he's a 1. I don't think he's a 2. I probably don't think he's a 3. But the New York Giants they better find a way to get this guy to stick here. And I know he's still got another year under contract. I think he's got $870,000 next year. So he's going to be back. But he's been a godsend for this football team. When you think about the trade deadline, when everybody was screaming, Joe Shane, why didn't you give up a second-round pick for Chase Claypool? Joe Shane, why didn't you give up a first-round pick for Judy? He brings Hodgins up off the street. The guy's got over 300 yards in like 6 games and 3 touchdowns. Claypool's got 100 yards and no scores for the Bears. Yet everybody tells me that Justin Fields is better than Daniel Jones. They go and give an early second-round pick up, but Isaiah Hodgins has been a godsend for this team, and you can make an argument he's been the MVP of this team over the last 4 or 5 weeks.
I asked Daboll about Hodgins this past week on Monday, actually, and I said, I get it. He was with you in Buffalo, so he's familiar with the system, but building that chemistry with Daniel as quickly as he has done it, I said, what have they done that they've just clicked so quickly? And he said that Hodgins is constantly with Daniel on the sideline, like when they're doing special teams or, the offense is on the sideline or whatever. He's constantly talking to him. They're either throwing the ball around, and then after every play, they're constantly going back to the huddle, and Hodgins is in Daniel's ear saying, okay, what did you see on this? And he says the communication between the two of them has just been phenomenal. That's what you want to see a young receiver do. And that's the difference between, why Hodgins is on the field and why, other guys are not on the field for this team.
Golly.
I'm not mentioning any names.
I know. I didn't either. I had to clear my throat. Yeah, but so Isaiah Hodgins comes off the scrap heap, and all the people that just don't want to give Daniel Jones any credit. They say, yeah, good quarterback elevates his wide receivers. I'm pretty sure that Daniel Jones has elevated Isaiah Hodgins' play. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that nobody knew who Isaiah Hodgins was, and he's come in here. He's had a great impact since he's been here. I also don't think it's Daniel Jones' fault that these guys can't catch passes, that they're like one of the highest as far as drop percentage in the league. I don't know how that's his fault. Richie James has also had for him. I mean, he's had drops. He's had fumbles. I mean, we know Richie James' problems. It's Richie James, man. But again, he wouldn't be on another team. I think Daniel Jones has elevated him too. I think Daniel Jones has done the best he can with what he has around.
He elevated Slayton too.
Slayton, Richie James. I mean, think about it. They're all reclamation projects. If you think about it, guys that were on the scrap heap or headed for the scrap heap, and they brought him in, they coached him up, and Daniel Jones. And I know people are going to slam me for this because I keep getting slammed in the comments section, not on the chat, but over on the channel. But Daniel Jones is doing what a franchise quarterback should do, which is elevating the talent around him. He's even making the offensive line look better because he's getting the ball out of his hand quicker, which is taking some of the onus off of that offensive line. So, people say, oh, Daniel doesn't throw the ball deep down the field. Well, it's because of the personnel he has, and they've got to adjust to this accordingly.
He was throwing deep down the field last week.
He's making good reads. He's making smart decisions. I mean, when was the last time how many times can you count on one hand the number of times you sat there and said, Daniel, what are you doing, man? I said, what, maybe 2 or 3?
Twice. The first the pass to Saquon against Tennessee in the end zone. Yeah. And then I wouldn't even say, what are you doing? He didn't see Hutchinson, and Hutchinson made a great play. And that was a bad interception. He just didn't see the coverage. Other than that, I mean, he may have been missing some guys down the field. And again, I can't see the whole field when I'm watching it on TV. And I know that that's something a lot of guys say, and that's probably a fair point. I can't see it from their perspective when they're at the game and they can say, hey, there's a guy running wide open down the field and he's just checking it down. That could definitely be a possibility. And that may be something that he has to get better at. But as far as like a poor decision, I think it's just those two. And again, I don't even know if the Hutchinson thing was a poor decision. It was a good play by him.
But I think it was equally a good play by him.
Yeah, I just think he has to read the defense a little bit better. The one to Saquon was a terrible decision.
That was horrible.
Daboll ripped him a new one. To me, that early on in the year, when they came back and won that game, that made me, I definitely was not a believer in Daniel Jones at the beginning of the year. I'd be lying if I said, oh, I knew he was the guy. No, I didn't. Anybody that watched my channel, for 3 years, I tore him up. But that game where he made that bad throw, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh, here we go. It's Daniel Jones. Here we go. All over again. We're going to have another year of the same crap. We're down 13-0 in the half. Daboll chewed him up and spit him out. I don't know what was said. I don't know if he was yelling at him, motivate. Whatever he did, it worked. They come back. They go for 2. They win that game. To me, I said that showed a lot of resolve and maturity for Daniel Jones to take that tongue lashing and to get it together and bring his team back to win. To me, I said to myself, well, that's a good sign. That's what a leader does. A leader takes that from the head coach, and instead of yelling back at the head coach or getting mad or saying, oh, nobody likes me, he goes out there and wins the game. I mean, to me, that was the start of, all right, I can see some maturity. And I think he's matured throughout the year. And like I said, at the beginning of the year, there's no way I thought he was coming back. I sit here going on New Year's Day saying I'll be very shocked if he's not.
There's no way he's not.
Somebody would have to come along and blow them out of the water.
What do you think about this Derek Carr crap? Derek Carr is not going to be a Giant.
Starting that already?
I didn't even hear that. What happened with Derek Carr?
He's been benched, and he walked out of it. He's not going to be in the facility
Derek
anymore
Carr's
because he
not
doesn't
gonna
want
be
to
a
be a
Giant.
He's not gonna be a
distraction.
Giant. I saw that. It was some article. It wasn't even on Twitter. It was some article like, "Oh, the Giants are Derek Carr." What are you talking about? Derek Carr has been in the league for 9 years. He's got Devontae Adams that throw you at Amari Cooper. He stinks. Why the hell would the Giants
Derek
take
Carr's
him?
a name. Derek Carr's a name. It ain't happening. It's
ain't
going to be
happening.
Daniel Jones or it's going to
Maybe
be
he goes to the Jets.
Yeah, let him go to the Jets is right. But no, it's going to be Daniel Jones or it's going to be a draft pick, and I'm heavily leaning it's going to be Daniel Jones.
I think so too. I think they look to get Daniel done early. Now the big question is will Daniel want to test the market? Because there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks out there. We could easily double-digit teams.
And teams see what he's doing. They're not like box score reading fans. Like they see what this guy is doing.
Mhm.
He's been in pressure-filled situations now week over week over week, and he's come up with big drives. This past week ties the game when you're down 8, the 2-point conversion to Bellinger, right? I mean, that was an incredible play. The week before, the 97-yard drive when he's backed up on his own 3-yard line, the 5 game-winning drives to start the year. These are things that teams are going to value at the quarterback position. So there's no doubt about it. Daniel Jones is going to have a market. And if people think that Brian Daboll and Jones Shane don't know his value, the guy he's throwing to, his number one option that I was just raving about that's doing a fantastic job, came from Buffalo, where they came from, and he wasn't even good enough to make their roster. Right now, that's Daniel Jones's number one weapon. So the job that he's doing with the help he has around him this year, he's going to have a market. And then the hope with the New York Giants realize that. I think in the end, I'm strongly leaning, Pat, if they don't get something done early, they're going to franchise tag him. They're going to tag him.
They might have no choice.
They might have no choice because if he hits the open market, he's going to get paid. I'm not saying he's going to get 5 years, $400 million, something ridiculous. Right. But he's going to get a hefty contract. And the New York Giants realize that. And I think they're going to tag him before free agency starts.
You know what? Let's go back, though, to the bye week. They didn't have discussions with Jones's agents at the time. They talked to Saquon's agents. Could that be because maybe they know that Jones does want to come back and it's going to be a contract that shouldn't be too difficult to get done and that maybe they can get it done before free agency starts? Or do you read something else into that?
That's a good point. I think it's a great point that they're worried more about Saquon in terms of being able to retain him as opposed to DJ because they know maybe they have a backdoor deal that they know they're going to be able to get something done. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. I'm excited to see what happens in the offseason. We all are for the future of this team. But each week that Daniel Jones goes out there and puts forward a good performance at a big game, which he's done every week pretty much, down the stretch, he's making himself a couple more $1 million. And
here's the other thing. He's
got a chance to do it this week. What did you say?
I said one other thing to keep in mind, to pay attention to. The Giants' negotiating history with the agents. Now, I know Shane is new and everything like that, but, there are certain agents that have been more, shall we say, a little bit more cooperative with the Giants when it comes to certain types of contracts and whatnot and negotiations than others. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Jones is rep by CAA, which would be Tom Condon's group. I don't know if he's represented by Condon himself, but I think he's rep by CAA. Saquon's rep by Rock Nation. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind.
And Rock Nation is notorious for trying to get every penny.
That's something to keep in mind when you're, will they bring him back or will they not bring him back? Because some agents, like I said, the Giants have a history, Drew Rosenhaus, they have a history of working well with him. Tom Condon, like you said, good history. Rock Nation, I think it's been a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned the 5 game winning drives, and that's what I was so mad about with that guy hitting that even had I knew he was going to hit a 61-yard. I knew it. There has been I think 18 kicks of 60 plus yards at the end of games, and outside of the Giants, the kickers are 2 for 15, 3 for 3 against us. Jake Elliott,
and
this kid on Minnesota, and Graham Gano. 61 plus yards to beat us.
And I love Graham Gano. He's probably like the MVP of this team over the last 2 years. But yeah, he made it against us. And then when he had an opportunity to hit a 59-yard game winner, he missed it when he was a Giant. We just have the worst luck in the world.
Again, the reason I was so ticked off about that is, to me, this is something else Daniel Jones has made me believe in. There was no doubt in my mind that game went to overtime. We were winning it.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were winning.
Oh yeah.
We
Oh,
were
yeah.
winning if that game went to overtime. That's why I got so ticked off that they even allowed them the opportunity to kick a 61-yarder. This day and age, I mean, I know that's still long and it's still not a gimme, but this day and age, man, kickers hit 60-yarders without a problem. 10 years ago, that was unheard of. Nowadays, it's definitely,
Especially in a dome.
it happens a lot more.
But
Exactly.
here's the funny thing is in warm-ups, his long, I think, was like 58. So I don't think that the Giants thought that he would necessarily make it because his he was good from 58, and then I think he tried a 60-yarder and wasn't any good. But
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
when you're in the
But-
dome, anything can happen.
I'm interested to. I don't know if the coach said it after the game. I would have asked him for Minnesota. I'm interested to see what the line of demarcation was, where they needed to get to for them to even attempt that field goal. Because I think if they would have been 2 or 3 or shorter than that, they probably just try a Hail Mary. If it would have been like a 63.
Actually, no, I can answer that question for you. Actually, the feeling is look, if we miss the field goal, we go into overtime.
Right.
Because look, they were completing.
But there's
passes.
got to be a point where you're like, there's no way you could even make this.
Well,
Let's
I mean, they
pick up a Hail
figured,
Mary.
it was nothing to lose at that point. And,
Yeah.
I could see your point where, okay, maybe you throw a Hail Mary and you aim for, Jefferson, who was just absolutely tearing up the Giants defense. But I think that was the reasoning behind it. It was like, okay, let's just get it into overtime. If we win it, we win it,
Yeah. Had it been like a 65-yarder, though, had the Giants given up 3 or 4 less yards, they probably don't even attempt the field goal. Right. It might have been just too far out of his range.
I mean, it was a walk-off. So they had nothing to lose by, it could have been a 100-yarder. It wouldn't have mattered. I mean, it would have ended in a tie, would have gone into overtime. So, it's just one of those things. I want
that team again.
To your point earlier, yes, I think the Giants would like to see the Vikings again.
I want that team again.
We could beat that team.
I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think if the Giants win on Sunday, they're going to clinch the 6th spot, which means they would draw Frisco, if I'm not mistaken.
But I think Frisco is going to pass Minnesota.
You think so? I hope so.
I think Green Bay is going to beat Minnesota at that last week of the season.
I'm going to tell you what. I think Green Bay is making the playoffs.
Wow. You think they're going to get in before Washington?
I think Green Bay is going to make the playoffs. They're hot right now, and they're only a game out of the last spot now. And if
they got to win out.
Yeah, they got to win out. They got to win.
That's what I'm saying. I think they're going to beat Minnesota. I think San Fran wins out, and San Francisco gets the tiebreaker. And I think they end up being the 2nd seed.
And I'm going to tell you this, BadDog. If Green Bay makes the playoffs, they would get the 7th seed more than likely. They're going to beat Minnesota if they have the 2 seed.
Yeah.
Green Bay
they won't beat San Francisco.
They won't beat San Francisco.
Nobody's beating San Francisco.
But if they play the Vikings, they will beat the Vikings. Green Bay is dangerous right now going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that any team that makes the playoffs can beat the Vikings. I think the Vikings, that anybody they play, I think the Vikings can win them too. But I'd much rather play Minnesota than San Francisco. San Francisco is really good. Well, if we play San Francisco, I'm going to sit there with all my heart and soul and root this team on and hope that they can pull off a major upset. But I want another shot at Minnesota.
Here's the kicker. What if, I don't know if the math will support this, but what happens if somehow Minnesota passes Philly for that number 1 spot? Wouldn't that be a kick in the pants?
Philly
I don't
beat
see
them
it happening, but
Philly beat them head to head, so I think it's like nearly impossible. Philly would have to lose their last 2 games, and Minnesota would have to win their last 2.
I don't think Philly's going to lose to New Orleans. I think Philly will wrap everything up this week.
Philly will which will make
the last game they're not going to.
Well, we'll talk about week 18 because I have some thoughts about that if the Giants win and then week 18. But I saw a question on the chat. Let me see, where was it? Somebody asked about McKinney, who here it is. Lou asked this question. McKinney's not playing this week. I'm pretty sure of that. They just started. For those who didn't hear, they started the clock on McKinney today. He I believe is limited. He's not playing this week. Here's what I would do.
Next
we might
week,
as well talk about this since we're on the topic. If I'm the Giants, I let McKinney practice the next 2 weeks. Assuming the Giants win the play on Sunday, get into the playoffs, get McKinney ready for the playoffs. Yeah. His conditioning is fine, because obviously he was able to run and do everything. Get him ready for the playoffs. Same thing with Adoree Jackson. Get him ready for the playoffs. Make sure that knee is stable. Maybe you give Adoree Jackson a few snaps on Sunday just to test it out, because he did say something today in his media session about how he has to go out and get some live reps to make sure he feels okay.
Mhm.
So maybe you give him about a dozen snaps, take him out of the game, and then give him the next couple of weeks to practice.
Would you consider resting both McKinney and Adoree Jackson this week and then against Philadelphia,
Yes.
letting them get their win? Yeah,
Yes, I
because
would.
if we're locked into
And
the
I'm not a fan
16
of resting players, but in this case, I would.
No, I'm saying let them play against Philadelphia
Oh, let them play.
so that they could kind of get their football wind back and get a feel for the game.
For me, if they're going to play, if they can, it would be this week. And
It would be this week, yeah.
week.
I don't know that I would put him out against Philly.
Because McKinney, it's a hand thing, so I don't
It's a
think
hand.
the
McKinney,
knee's a little different.
He can, yeah. Adoree's the one that's got to, and he said it today in the media sessions that he has to kind of get his sea legs back underneath him, see how he feels. But McKinney's ready to go. If he could, he'd go out and play tomorrow. It's just he's got to obviously get used to working with the hand with the splint on it. But his wind is up, his conditioning is fine. Jackson's the one that's got to build up. And that's why I just as soon see him just practice and work his way up from limited to full. And just, again, assuming that the Giants are in the playoffs, let him be ready for the playoffs, because that's when you're going to need him for real. Because he ain't beating Philly. I don't care if Philly's
we need him. We need him.
Starters.
We need him this week. I mean, I'm not taking this opponent lightly at all.
Chris, against this offense, there's
a playoff game. I ain't taking it. If he could play this week, I'm not saying rush him back. If he can't play, he can't play. But if Adoree Jackson could play this week, I want him on the field.
All right, fair enough. I mean,
now McKinney, I don't think is going to play.
I don't think so either.
With the hand situation, I don't think he's going to play this week. But if Jackson could play this week, yeah, I want him on the field.
Maybe, like I said, maybe give him about a dozen snaps and let him get his sea legs back underneath him. Yeah. I wouldn't play him the whole game.
Yeah, it depends.
That's not how they operate. When was the last time a player came off an injury to play the whole game?
If he's not 100%, I don't want him playing at all. But if he's 100%, I want him playing 100%.
I don't think I think he's close, but I wouldn't say at this point.
Then I don't want him playing. Then I don't want him playing. If he's not a full go, rest him another week.
Or give him like I said, give him a dozen snaps, see how he does, see how he feels, and then pull him out. Because I mean, I feel too overconfident in this, but I think the defense should be able to handle this Colts offense. I mean, Wink's going to send the kitchen sink at
he's going to send the dough, as you like to say.
So I don't know, man. I could see playing Jackson for a dozen snaps, but then pull him out, let him get his sea legs underneath him, and then get him ready for the playoffs if you have playoffs.
Okay.
When we have playoffs.
When we have
this
week.
I have to say if. I'm obligated to say if.
Gotcha.
The Colts had me, by the way, on they have on their website, they do a know your foe type of radio interview. So I was this week's guest, if anybody wants to check that out. That's on the Colts website. Nice. So we were talking about a whole bunch of stuff and so pretty cool, I thought, So, but all right, let me ask you guys this. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's say best case scenario, the Giants win this week.
Right.
Philly wraps up their business.
Right.
All right. So I know we're looking ahead here, but if you're the Giants, do you sit guys in week 18 or do you play them?
Nope. Not now. If they're injury concerns like McKinney, that's another story. But if their guy, no, I'm not doing. Listen, we said people asked us in the chat last week. Would you do that? I think, and I said no. First off, this is not a Super Bowl team yet. This is not the Philadelphia Eagles. This is not the Buffalo Bills. This is a young team that is learning new schemes. They need as much experience as they could get in those offenses and defenses. So, no, I don't want to take any of that for granted. And the other thing I'll say is if the Giants have a good performance against the Eagles, regardless of whether Hurts plays or not, they're still a good football team. If they keep that game close and competitive, we've seen what it can do. It could build momentum. It could build confidence in a football team. And I understand BadDog and a lot of fans were flipping out last week, as they should have been. We gave that game away. It's a game we absolutely should have won. But I left that game feeling similar to the way I did after the Green Bay game in 2011. I left that game feeling like we went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in football on the road on short rest. We were -2 in the turnover battle. We threw the ball 45 times. We played their style of football, and we were the better football team. And to me, that could be a sign of momentum and of things to come. There's never such thing as a good loss, just like the Packers wasn't a good loss, just like the Patriots wasn't a good loss. But I feel like last week was the type of loss that could build some momentum towards the end of the year.
Listen, I don't care who's playing for Philadelphia. I always want to beat their ass. So I'm not resting guys.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm going in there with a sledgehammer, and I'm hammering those guys with every fiber of my being. I'm not laying down against the Eagles.
What if guys are just banged up? But what if they're banged up?
That's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, if they're 50%, I'm not like forcing them back in there. But Daniel Jones, he needs to play. Saquon Barkley, he needs to play. You know, Azeez Ojulari, if he's healthy, he needs to play. Hopefully he is healthy. We miss that guy. That guy's a beast. David, all the guys, especially the rookies. Evan Neal definitely needs to play. Evan Neal needs to get better. Evan Neal's been struggling. So, yeah, the wide receivers need to play. Play everybody because you got nothing to lose. Listen, if they get hurt, they get hurt, right? They could, if we're playing Minnesota, they could get hurt in the first play of the game. You never know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with Chris. Get these guys some experience, build some momentum, because you're going to be playing the next week. I mean, at the end of the game, you want to rest them maybe in the fourth quarter or something.
That's different. Fourth quarter, whatever.
Different story. But I'm not resting them the entire game.
What about getting some of these guys who haven't played much that maybe, who knows, the Giants might need them in the playoffs a little bit more. What about getting them some reps? I mean, basically, I don't know. I don't want to say treating it like an exhibition game. And by the way, I'm not in favor of it especially after seeing what happened in 2007 and, you know, understanding what Coughlin was doing. And I know this is a different team, a different era, but if guys are banged up and you've got an uphill battle in this playoff race, if you get in, why not have guys, you know, give them a rest and let them be fresh for the playoffs? I can see the logic behind it.
I get the logic. But I also look at Daniel Jones and I look at a guy like Hodgins, for example. You know, they haven't been working together that long. So every rep that they get to play together is valuable for the playoffs and for the future. Like, these guys don't have, I mean, I know they look like they got really good chemistry, but they've only been playing together for 5 or 6 weeks. So I want them to continue to build off of that. I'm hoping this week they build off of last week. I don't expect them to throw 45 times, but I want to see a bit more open offense. Maybe you continue to do that against the Eagles and as you get ready for the playoffs. So I am not for resting guys the last week, regardless of whether that game means something or not. Again, like Bad Dog said, fourth quarter, different story. If the game's out of hand one way or the other, yeah, put in Tyrod Taylor, put in some of the backups. But to start that game, I want Daniel Jones out there. I want the starters out there.
So like give it like a preseason game almost. Give them a couple of series.
No, I want 3 quarters. I want at least 3 quarters.
At least a half.
Yeah, at least
regardless of what happens in that half.
Yeah. Listen, if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. That's football. But
so I'm saying they could get hurt in the first play of the game.
Hurt, then they're screwed
in the playoffs.
That's the way I look at it, though. It's like if I felt that
can't play scared, man.
If I felt that this team was a Super Bowl team, I might feel differently. I might be like, okay, this is a battle. This isn't the war. But this is, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. This is not the Bills. This is not the Chiefs. This is a team that we're fortunate to be where we are. We've played really good football down the stretch. And I think every rep matters for a team like this because it's not just about this year. It's about next year and going forward. So, I want them to play a good portion of that last game.
All right, fair enough. I mean, we could agree to disagree. I would probably be a little bit more conservative but you know, then again, I'm thinking in terms of if guys are banged up, and I know that there are guys who are probably banged up. I mean, you could see it in Evan Neal, for example. He's playing hurt.
Yeah.
Just, you know, even watching guys walking around the locker room, you can kind of tell when somebody's just not right. You know what I mean? So that's how I'm coming at it. But again, you go back.
If they're banged up, sit them.
Yeah. It's just if they're 100% healthy.
Well, nobody's 100% now healthy, you know, at this point. But I know what you're saying. You know, if they're able to go out there, get out there. But so I totally get it. But guys, let's go back to the Colts game, because I think an element of that game that not a lot of people are talking about that we have to talk about is the special teams, especially given how the Giants' special teams have been. Does that element worry you guys at all? Especially the returners on the Colts.
Yeah.
Oh, special teams always worries me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it certainly does going into that game. It certainly does. And I was worried about it last week too. They had a really good kick returner on Minnesota. The Giants did a good job of kicking it out of the end zone. They didn't get too cute against them. Of course, it probably assisted they were in a dome, so it made it easier for Gano to just kick it out. But yeah, our kick coverage this year has been piss poor.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that special teams have struggled?
I thought Lawrence Tynes brought up a really good point when I had him on my channel. I think the special teams are depleted because the New York, when you don't think about this as a fan, but when he brought it up, I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. When first up, we were a thin enough roster to begin with before the year even started, before we had injuries. Now the projected starters have all gone down with injuries. So now the guys that were supposed to be special teamers have been tasked with extra work. And now you're calling up practice squad guys to have more core responsibility on special teams. So it's like a trickle down effect. I think our lack of depth on the overall roster, the injuries that we've had are the biggest culprit for why our special teams has been as bad as they have been.
Yeah, bingo. I totally agree. And people, I see some people saying, "Oh, fire McGahee" and stuff like that. He always uses the analogy of gumbo, making gumbo and grabbing whatever ingredients he has to make gumbo. And sometimes the recipe is going to be, a 5-star recipe, and sometimes it's going to be crap. So I think that is definitely an issue. And it's nobody's fault per se. The Giants just got to figure out how the heck they're going to, get these injury situations under control, because this injury, they can't have this every year. They cannot have this every year. So
every year, it's insane.
Every year, absolutely.
The ironic thing is our special teams were good before Judge got here, and Judge was supposed to be a special teamer and it hasn't been good since he got here.
Well, I don't think I need to tell you that he was maybe sticking his fingers into that pot a little bit more,
Yeah. No, I remember I heard stories about how
he kind of hinted at that.
Yeah.
Way back when he said, "Oh, what's it like working for Daboll?" and he made the comment, "He trusts me."
Yeah.
Which I thought was very, very telling.
Yeah.
So,
I remember I heard stories last year of how Dixon was saying that Judge was telling him to almost like intentionally not punt it well to like create spin on the ball. I was like, what the hell are we talking about?
He was messing with Dixon. They wanted him to do different punts, different styles of punts that Dixon basically couldn't do.
Yeah.
Joe's, from what I understand, his approach was, hey, let's expand what you could do, and we'll try these punts. And, look, it's like asking a guitar player to suddenly play the drums. It takes time to learn it, and you're not going to be good at it right away. Meanwhile, you're performing in a band and you're not keeping the beat. So there was some meddling, maybe it's not the right word, but there was some tinkering going on that just, when it came to light, it was like, whoa, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah.
But
Judge.
Yeah.
He overthought it.
Yeah, way too cute.
I still say Joe's going to be a good head coach one day. I think he needs to start though at the college level.
I agree with you. I think he could be a good head coach one day.
I think Joe just my 2 cents for what it's worth. I question how much he basically leaned on his assistants, especially when things started going down the toilet. So, that's what I love about Daboll. Daboll truly, win or lose, good times or bad, it is a group effort. Everybody's in it together. There's no jumping ship. There's no pushing guys off the plank. Everybody's in it together. And Daboll doesn't panic, and that's, you look at what happened with the Broncos and how their locker room splintered. You look at, other teams that have struggled. You don't see that. Now, granted, the Giants haven't had it as bad as some of those teams, but when they had that losing streak, nobody was panicking.
No.
That's leadership, folks.
And it's the same message every week with Daboll. Every week, your buddies, they try to get like a quote from him where they ask him a question and is this a make or break game? Is this the playoffs? Do you take this game differently than you do any other game? And he says the same answer every week. He says, I don't even know who's on the schedule after this week. This
Why
week's about.
why would he say anything different?
Yeah,
At
I
this
love it
point,
though. I
why
love it.
would he say anything different?
Who shouldn't? Who
He
shouldn't?
it would
He wants his
totally
team
go
to be
against.
focused. He wants his team to be focused on the task at hand.
Absolutely. And you know, it makes sense. Don't put you get enough pressure in the game as it is. So worry about what you can do today. You don't know what tomorrow is going to be. Tomorrow we could wake up and you know, maybe it's the end of football as we know it or something. You don't know what tomorrow brings. So worry about today. Don't worry about what you got coming up tomorrow. And you know, with the playoffs, if they get here, or for you, dog, when they get here.
When, right?
I know, all right. I have to say if it's a force
When
to have
you
it.
gotta win Sunday, gotta win.
All right. When the playoffs get here, then you worry about that. Then they'll talk about it. But what's the point talking about it now when it hasn't happened? You
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen in the next hour, let alone tomorrow.
No.
So I totally get what he's doing. And, you know, I just, and here's the other thing. The players know what's at stake. The coaches know what's at stake.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I just don't get the approach. I really don't. But I guess I'm in the minority.
Well, they want clickbait quotes. You know that approach. That's the approach.
Well, you know what? To be fair, we in the media, most of us have been on this beat for multiple years. I think there's maybe, I want to say, 2 people in the on the beat writers who are on their first year covering this team. So we've all been through the ringer with this team, you know, with the lousy football, no playoffs, no nothing. So there's a sense of excitement. There's
As there
definitely a
should
sense of
be. As there
excitement.
should be.
I get that. You know, it's something different to talk about as opposed to at this point of the year talking about drafts and who are you going to bring back and all that other stuff. I get it, but you know, it's pretty obvious that you know, Daboll doesn't want to talk about the playoffs. He doesn't want to put the cart before the horse. I get that as well, but look, I mean, I'm not angry that you know my colleagues are asking those questions. I don't blame
No,
them.
that's their job. That's what they.
Exactly. It's not for clickbait. It's
But
their job.
I love the way that he handles it though, Daboll.
He does handle it well. Absolutely does. And that's just what he's all about. Just what he's all about. You know, he's transparent, matter of fact, and oh, by the way, he's not going to give you a whole lot. He's going to try to help you within reason, but he's not going to go, you know,
Nor
crazy,
should he.
if you will.
Nor should he.
Exactly. So it's a little bit of Belichick, but not quite Belichick.
Not as stubborn.
Right, exactly. All right, let's pop this question up from Hester. Do you feel internally this regime likes DJ as much as the past 2 regimes? The feeling I got is that he was loved by the last 2, but not sure if exaggerated. The last 2 really didn't last that long to really, I guess, form an opinion. I mean, you go back to the Judge regime and the turnover at offensive coordinator. So I don't know if they ever really got a beat on that, but I think this regime does appreciate Daniel Jones for, you know, the growth that he's shown, for his maturity, for, you know, being the face of the franchise, for just, you know, look, people are out there still blaming Daniel Jones for, you know, the flu bug that's going around. They blame him for everything that's bad. And Daniel just sits there and he takes it, you know, and he just smiles and he goes about his job. And, you know, he's not thin skinned. Can you imagine if we had a thin skinned quarterback here?
It'd be a
Like
disaster.
Baker Mayfield.
I'm not mentioning names.
Murray with Arizona this year, the way he handled the
I'm
media.
not mentioning names.
Baker handles
You
media
know who the
terribly.
thin skinned quarterbacks are. I mean, Daniel's got the perfect demeanor to play in New York. He's made the most of it. He's gone to work. You know, he's not a flashy type of kid. And you know what? So far, so good. It's working out for him, and it looks like he's going to get a nice payday at the end of the year.
I think they definitely believe in him. Whether or not they
so.
believe in him as the franchise quarterback, probably not yet. But I don't think they've written it off either. I think they're like, okay, we like him. We like him. We'll see at the end of the year. But I've been saying it now for about 8 weeks. I think Jones is going to be back. I think they like him enough to bring him back next year and to see if he can grow with more help and support around him. Obviously, I think the prior regime liked him. even though they didn't draft. Well, Gettleman drafted him, but Joe Judge wasn't there when they drafted him. But they definitely liked him. I mean, for God's sakes, they went out there and they spent $72 million on Kenny Golladay to try to help him.
Right.
You know, they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. So I think their mission was clearly to try to help Daniel Jones as much as they could. It just failed miserably because Tony couldn't stay on the field and because Kenny Golladay, well, he's finished. He's damaged.
Yeah,
Good.
and the fact that they gave him no help up front, the offensive line, complete trash. They didn't draft an offensive lineman in 2021. So that obviously didn't help out either. I don't know. It's hard to say if they liked him or they didn't like him. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't like him.
Well, here's the thing. To Taina's point, they're not going to give him a 5 or 6 year deal. I don't see that happening.
No.
Because look, this is his first really good year where he has shown finally taken that step forward that he should have taken in year 2 and then in year 3 to follow. So you don't go crazy. But that said, you say, okay, Daniel, you've done enough. We're going to give you a short-term contract, paid accordingly. And if you outperform that contract, we will rip it up and we will talk about a long-term deal. You know, one of the things Buffalo did, I know I've mentioned this before, so I'm going to tell you guys what I'm talking about when I reference Josh Allen's contract. One of the things they did, I'm going to just pull it up real quick, so just bear with me 1 second while I get this in front of me so I can correctly explain it to you guys. So what Buffalo did with Josh Allen, because if you remember, Josh Allen, it took him a couple of years before he became
First 2 years, he was mediocre at best. The first 2 years, yeah.
Right. So what they did, and this is on Over the Cap, if anybody wants to take a look at this, they have structured his guaranteed money. So if you look at the 2022, for example, as of March 21st, 2022, $10 million of his 2024 base salary, which is $23.5 million, by the way, is guaranteed. So every 2 years, he gets more guarantee on a structured level, which I think is brilliant the way they did that. And I think the reason why they did that is because they gave him, let's see, he signed through 2028. The prorated signing bonus can only be spread out over 5 years. So by structuring the guarantee to where he's getting a little bit more guarantee if he outperforms the contract that year, I thought that was brilliant. And again, you can see this on, unfortunately, I don't have the bandwidth because my husband's upstairs doing whatever it is he's doing on his job. But if you go to Over the Cap and you look up Josh Allen's contract, you'll see what I'm talking about, how he's got guaranteed money that kind of just, it's structured, it's tiered. And that's how I could potentially see, if Daniel Jones plays really well and earns a really good contract, a upper tier type of contract for a quarterback, that's the type of model I could see him getting.
Yeah, I'm looking at the contract right now. I mean, I don't see all the intricacies about it, but after 2024, they could get out of that contract if they wanted to, the way that they structured it.
Yeah, they could.
They're not going to. He's Josh Allen, but they could the way that they structured it. As a matter of fact, he has no dead cap hit by 2027. He's $40 million against the cap. But they probably figure by that point they're going to give him another contract. But they did it that way so they could spread out the money and create cap space in other places.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just interesting. That's one way to do it. Now I'm going to look up. I don't know if you guys saw the article by Joe Corey, former NFL agent who writes the Ask an NFL Agent column over on CBS Sports. He suggested something similar to what Blake Bortles got a few years ago. So I've got to look that contract up.
I know the contract. I actually looked it up because somebody brought it up on Twitter, and he got, I think it was, I want to say it was like 3 years, 60 or maybe it was, no, I think it was 3 years. 3 years, 54. I think it was. So that was $18 million a year, but that was, how many years ago now? Like 5-6 years ago?
Well, yeah, but the structure, look at the structure.
Yeah. It allowed them to get out.
And with Jones, with a contract with Jones, you can put in incentives. You can obviously put in, roster bonus if you want. You can put in a playoff bonus. Eli had a playoff bonus in 2011. He cleaned up. He made I think an extra $500,000 or something an extra $1 million, because for every playoff level he won, he got a bonus, and that money got kicked into the following year's cap. So there are things that they can do to make Jones APY, decent.
That's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be the
Right.
Blake Bortles situation. And if he does not improve, like Blake Bortles regressed. I think he got hurt that next year. He'll be replaced.
Exactly. So
if
that's
he
why you go with a
improves
shorter term contract.
Yeah.
And if Jones, wets the bed and regresses, then you say, okay, you know what? Chances are, if he wets the bed, the Giants are going to probably not have a good record anyway. So now you see who's in the draft, and everybody acts like this is it. That this coming draft class is it to get a quarterback. No, there'll be other opportunities to get a quarterback.
Listen, he's going to come back next year, and he's either going to continue to improve and get better, and he'll get to stay on the team like Alex Smith did with the Chiefs. Smith stayed there for 4 or 5 years because the team kept winning. And if they keep winning and Jones keeps getting better, he'll stay. And at that point, what can they complain about if the team's winning and playing well? If they regress and win 5 or 6 games and he plays poorly, he'll be replaced. That's the situation.
They complain about, no matter how much he wins, no matter how much he does.
They'll always complain.
They just don't want him here. They wanted other quarterbacks from this draft class, and I don't know any quarterbacks from this draft class that have done anything this year. As a matter of fact, Malik Willis isn't even starting tonight. It's Dobbs getting a start tonight, their third string quarterback. Why is that the case? Why wouldn't you play Malik Willis tonight?
Half the fan base was screaming to take him 5th overall. Could you imagine what Malik Willis would look like on this football team with this offensive line?
They're not even playing Malik Willis tonight.
Because they don't want to get.
They're in a playoff. They're fighting for the division.
Now, to be fair, I think this game is meaningless because they play the Jaguars the last game of the year. So if they lose or win, they still have to win that last game.
Wouldn't you want to get Malik Willis some experience?
A young quarterback. Exactly. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, although everybody wanted a quarterback last year and this past draft, and as much as I was not an advocate of Daniel Jones being the future, when we had the draft, I definitely didn't want any of the quarterbacks from the 2022 class. And going into the year, there was people clamoring for Tyrod Taylor, and I didn't even want Tyrod Taylor. I said we'll win more games with Daniel Jones than we're with Tyrod Taylor. Daniel Jones is done the best he can with what he has. We're right on the brink of making the playoffs. People, I love when people are like, oh, it's not good. It's not good to make the playoffs. You don't get a good draft pick. We've had tons of good draft picks the last 5 years, and we didn't do anything the last 5 years. This is the first year since 2016 that we've been above 500, that we have a chance to make the postseason. What the hell do you keep stockpiling good draft picks for if you keep losing football games? And it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Exactly. All right, listen, guys, I got to take a commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We've got plenty to talk about still here on LockedOn Giants Live. Hey, Giant fans, I have an important message for you. You ever have a situation where you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks, and then a few becomes too many, and then as the evening comes to an end and people start to leave, you think of calling for a ride, and then you say to yourself, nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's not a big deal. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill somebody. Well, everybody knows about the risks of drunk driving. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right, everybody, welcome back to LockedOn Giants Live. Entertainah and Dog, and we are getting you ready for the Giants win over the Colts. Right,
Let's
Dog?
go.
Did I say it right? Did I say it right? The Giants win over the Colts.
We got to win.
That was confident. That was confident.
What was that?
That was confident. You sounded confident.
Damn right.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
No Jonathan Taylor. You got Nick Foles at quarterback. We better win this game.
We got it. And it's at home. It's at home.
home.
We got a chance to clinch the postseason berth in front of our fans. Wink's already said, get loud. It's
I love
time.
Wink. I freaking love Wink.
Get loud. And I think that crowd is going to be pumped up.
Well, Chris, you're going, right?
Yeah,
You
I think I'm going, Bad Dog. I'm going.
go? Okay.
It's a playoff game. It's an opportunity to make the playoffs. My brother messaged me, wants to go. I said, let's go. I got to be there. I'm going. I can't wait.
There you go.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'm definitely there.
we got to meet up. If you're
Where you
going,
gonna- you let me know where you're going to be because I pull in pretty early. So
what time do you get there?
oh gosh, I usually leave the house about by 8:30 at the latest. So I'm
gonna be there at that time.
You're going to be there at that. All right.
I'm gonna be there. Yeah. Last time I got
So-
there at about 8:30. I got there.
I'm usually all right. What lot are you going to hit? Like L?
L16. That's where Justin is.
Okay. I'm either in M or G, depending on where I get my parking pass. So
Okay. So
I'll see if I can
I'm gonna message you on Twitter, and I'll meet you there.
okay. If
Say
I'll see if I
hello.
can swing over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would
But
be
it's
fun.
I'm so pumped up for the game. I can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be wild, man. It's going to be like a playoff. Look,
Well,
it's the last regular season game of the year,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a playoff atmosphere because look, the Giants aren't going to have, when they get to playoffs, they're not going to have a home playoff game. This is it. This is going to be like a playoff.
When was the last time we made the playoffs? Did we clinch at home? I can't even remember.
What's that?
Yes.
Did they clinch at home?
They did.
Oh, 2016.
I don't remember.
I think that some team lost and we got in.
Is that what it
because
was?
they
Yeah.
lost. I think that's what happened. Some team ended up losing. We ended up getting in. I know in 2011 we clinched against Dallas in the last game of the season. Then we beat Atlanta, but we haven't had a playoff game at home since 2011.
Yeah, I remember that Atlanta game. That Atlanta game, believe it or not, that was the only time I can ever remember the Giants the MetLife Stadium press box being completely filled to capacity.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
That's
It
insane.
is.
It was filled to capacity because I remember the overflow. They put the overflow into the lunchroom where they have all the TVs set up. I was like, wow, I never saw that.
And I remember you telling me the stadium was like shaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, guys, getting back to this weekend's game. I know we're all confident, but Chris, I want to explore why you're a little hesitant on it.
It's the Giants.
What's causing you the most trepidation about this game?
It's the Giants.
Let's see if we can kind of,
Listen, I'm not saying I'm picking us. I'm picking us. But one thing I've learned about the Giants over the course of my life, nothing comes easy. The only time the New York Giants had a game that came easy in terms of being a big game was the Vikings championship game. And the Atlanta game, like you just mentioned, when we won 24-2, I think it was. But nothing comes easy when it comes to the New York Giants. And I don't want to take anybody for granted. And that's why they play the games. You see it every week. There's a team that you're like, they have no business winning this game, and they win it. So I'm still nervous, regardless of how much better I think we may be than the Colts. Knowing how much pressure the Giants are under and knowing how the Colts have nothing to lose. So they're going to be playing like they got nothing to lose. And a lot of times that's the most dangerous team that you could run into. So I'm not taking this game lightly. I think we should win. I think we should win by at least a touchdown. But I'm still nervous.
Oh, I'm nervous every time we play. I'm nervous because, yeah, like you said, nothing's for granted with us. I mean, we find ways. This year we found ways to win, but a lot of times we find ways to lose. We have bad luck and, whatever. But this coaching staff, these players, and listen, like I said, Indianapolis is a horrible team. They're coming off a short week, and they're flying all the way across the country. They played in Los Angeles.
Yep.
So if there's ever a team primed to get beat down, it's the Colts. Now, if you're the Giants, you get off to a good start, you punch them in the mouth, and then when they're on the ground, you step on their throat. You don't give them any chance. You don't give them any reason to believe they can win the game, and they're going to fold because they don't have any reason to win the game.
Right.
They don't care about this game. It's not important to them, but it's everything to the Giants, and they have to play that way. They can't sit back and play down to the level of competition or go in as confident as I am that they can win the game. They have to go in like Chris does. Can't take any opponent lightly. This is an NFL football team. They could easily walk out of here with a W. We can't look ahead, can't look to the playoffs. We got to take care of business right now. So they got to come out and they got to be firing on all cylinders. And like I said, put them away early and don't let them the hell up and make yourself,
And we're not in a position, as well as we've played this year, and as crazy as it may sound, guys, maybe you guys disagree with me on this. The first half of the season, the Giants started, 6-1?
Yes.
I think even though this team now is, what are we now, 8-6-1? So since our 6-1 start, we're 2-5-1 over our last 8 games. I think this team over the last 8 games is a better team than they were over the first 7 games, even though the record may not indicate that.
Well, we played tougher opponents, too.
We've played tougher opponents, and I think I think this team is starting to evolve. We've just had some injuries.
There's 2 games we should have won, too. I mean, we're being fair. The first game against Washington,
should have won that.
And shoulda, woulda, coulda. I get it. You, whatever. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts every day, it'd be Christmas. I understand that. But still, I feel like we should have beat Minnesota. We should have beat Washington. If we do end up winning those games, then it's a totally different story. I mean, we'd be 10-4 or 10-5 right now.
10-5.
So,
all right. You know what? I'm going to, just for you, Chris, I'm going to do something that I did in 2011.
Uh-oh.
And it actually
You're scaring me.
Okay. I'm going to I did this in 2011.
Okay.
And I told the story. I wrote 2007. It was 2007. I'm sorry. 2007 I did this. And I remember, the very first book I ever wrote, I wrote kind of like, it was like Pat's journal on 2007. And I recapped the entire season, including the behind the scenes stuff. What I did that year is every game I wrote what a lead, which is basically the start of my story, what I thought was going to happen.
Okay.
Which is what a lot of reporters do. We pre-write. All right. And then we fill in what actually happens.
Really? So before a game starts, you start your article.
You have a feel. So you write an opening lead. Like, for example, the New York Giants clinched the New York Giants clinched their first playoff berth since 2016 with a blank win over the Indianapolis Colts. And then you write a second one. The New York Giants failed to clinch. So you flip it. And that's how you piece it together. So that's how we, I'm giving you a journalistic tip here, how you write quickly. So anyway, 2007, every week I wrote as if the Giants were going to lose. I wrote a lead that they were going to lose. And of course they won more times than they lost. And a lot of times I had to throw the lead out and start from scratch. But I got so superstitious, knock on wood, God forgive me for saying that. I got so superstitious that I kept doing it. And every time I did it, the Giants won. So just for you, I'm going to write a lead that the Giants lose and hope that lead never has to see the light of day.
I want you to show me that lead before the game starts. If that's going to bring any kind of good luck, I want to read it too. Like, I need the New York Giants.
I never let anybody see it. I'm not
going to show it to anybody. Oh,
I know, but it's funny because I was doing it and my husband's like, why are you making extra work for yourself? He says, you're only going to have to rewrite it anyway when the game starts. I said, because I've been doing it now. And, I was semi-superstitious at the time. And, look, sometimes you got to take one for the team, I guess, right?
You got to do it.
You do.
So it was so wild. And I wrote about that. I don't know if the book's still in print. If it is, it's on Amazon. But it was like a diary I wrote of, going back to the beginning of that season, 2007, all the way through to the very end. And that was fun, man. That last month of playoffs, that was fun. The stories I could tell. But anyway, that's what I did. And I'm going to do that just for you this week, Chris, to put your mind at ease.
All right. Now you just put my mind a little bit at ease. Now I feel a little more confident we're going to get the win.
And it's weird. 2007, I can remember 2007. I remember I worked at in a different department for the state. And we always had a UPS guy come in every day and deliver stuff. And I thought, before the Tampa game, I'm like, Giants are going to win. He's a Pittsburgh fan, but I remember saying Giants are going to win this game, and they won the game. And then I remember we played Green Bay, and I said, or not Green Bay, I'm sorry, we were playing Dallas, and I said, I'm telling you, the Giants are going to beat Dallas. We're going to beat Dallas. Then they played Green Bay, and I remember saying to myself, I'm like, man, I don't think we're beating Green Bay. But I was in Connecticut. I remember going down and visiting some of my wife's friends. We went down and visited, and I remember staying in the hotel. And waking up the next morning and looking at ESPN, it was freezing cold. And I told my wife, I go, Giants are winning today. I feel like we're winning today. I feel like we're going to win. And then, of course, when they ended up winning that game, I told everybody, And it's the most money I've ever won betting on a football game because I took the Giants straight up. And that was a big money line. I think it was like plus 260, whatever it was. It was a lot.
That's all? Because they were like plus 10. I would think it's more.
Yeah, it was 14. It was plus 280, whatever it was. It was a lot on the money line. I just had a feeling. I had a feeling. And then, of course, 2011, the big one was I ate cinnamon rolls every pregame. I had cinnamon rolls for breakfast. And I did that every game. And I came downstairs and I had a bad TV down here, a big 42-inch JVC tube TV. Every morning for breakfast, for the playoff game, cinnamon rolls. Then I'd come down here and watch it on my crappy TV. And that was the way I did it. And even in the Super Bowl, I was supposed to go watch it with my dad. We play a big Texas Hold'em tournament at my buddy's house every Super Bowl Sunday. And I was supposed to leave there and go to my dad's. And I called my dad. I said, Dad, I can't. I was like, I can't. I have to watch it here. I have to watch it on this TV, on that spot on the couch. I have to do it. And I remember when Manningham caught the pass and they were reviewing it, my wife tell you, I was beside myself. I'm pacing. I'm all over the place. Like I can't breathe. It's insane. I get so worked up during a game, especially during the playoffs. Yeah. You guys and girls on YouTube who have just seen me, the way I act during a game for the last 5 years, you have not seen
times it by 100 for the playoff. You
have not seen playoff Bad Dog. It is a different. Like Chris said, multiply it by 100.
See the difference, and I'm just like that in the playoffs too. Just like that in the playoffs. But the ironic thing is, I was the exact opposite in that situation. I was sick with the flu in 2011. I was supposed to go to my friend's house for a party. I was dating a girl at the time, was living with her, and I stayed at her place instead because I couldn't get out of bed. So during the game, I was as into it as I could have been, as sick as I was, pacing back and forth the entire game. And when Manningham caught that pass, I had the exact opposite reaction. I stopped pacing. I sat on the chair as calm as could be, as if it was a preseason game. And I told my girlfriend at the time, I said, we just won the game. The game's over.
Well, what it was is
Eli was that money that year. I knew the game was over.
It was the fact they were reviewing it. The fact he challenged it. That's when I'm like, I know that's a catch. In my head, I'm like, I know it's a catch. He's in bounds. You can
okay.
In the history of the NFL, you'll never find a better one. It may be as good. The next year, Roethlisberger to Holmes in the corner of the end zone was insane. The Montana to Dwight Clark was insane. But that throw from Manning to Manningham, 40 yards in between a safety. I mean, you can't throw a better pass. But I was just pacing back and forth. I'm like, just call it complete.
For the challenge, I was
nervous. It took forever. Just call it complete.
Yeah.
Then,
for the challenge, I agree. I was nervous.
I'm embarrassed.
I was good.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed to admit it, but that Super Bowl was a blur to me because remember, I was being treated for cancer, so I had just finished my treatments that October. So it took me a good, I want to say 4 or 5 months before I started to feel decent. And for that Super Bowl, the night before I came down with a flu or some kind of bug because my immune system still wasn't, up to snuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how in God's name I got through that game, but I did. But I just remember it being a blur. And that was probably the first and only time in my career I was late with an assignment because I was just so sick. I had a high fever. It was so scary. I mean, I called my doctor that from Indianapolis. Thank God my husband was out with me because if he hadn't been out there, I probably would have been in a hospital dead someplace or something. So I called my doctor and she said, if you don't get your temperature down, she says, you're going in the hospital as soon as you come off that plane. And I'm like, I don't want to go back in the hospital. So thankfully my fever broke, but boy, was I sick as a dog. And I still don't know.
We probably had the same thing because I was as sick as a dog too.
I don't know what the heck happened. I mean, the night before we were out walking around Indianapolis. It was kind of drizzly. So I don't want to say that's what did it, but maybe I caught something because again, my immune system wasn't 100% or I don't know exactly what happened, but I was really, really messed up.
See,
and I had such a high fever that I almost got on the wrong plane coming home. It was so my husband's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the plane. He goes, that plane's going to Hawaii. I should have gotten on
that one.
No, I know I should have. So he's like, no, you got to go on this plane because we had to go from Cincinnati which the Cincinnati airport, we had to drive from Indianapolis to Cincinnati because we couldn't get a flight out of Indianapolis. So we drove to the Cincinnati airport, which is actually in Kentucky. Then we had a flight from there to Chicago, back to Newark.
Wow.
What an adventure that was.
Wow.
You got to love this team, Patty, this particular team, because like you, they're fighters. This team's fight. That's one thing I love about this team. And I've made the comparison to the 1990 football team. Now, they're not as good as the 1990 Giants. There's no way. But the 1990 Giants were not a team that threw the ball a lot. You know, Phil Simms had 15 touchdowns that year and 4 interceptions before he got hurt. They ran the ball with O.J. Anderson and wore them down and played really good defense. That's what they won games. I mean, they beat teams down. Don't get me wrong. I remember they beat Detroit 20-0. They beat Indianapolis 24-7. They crushed Dallas in the beginning of the year. Like they did, but their offense was not a high-flying, sexy offense. They played really good defense and ran the ball. And the teams they beat in the playoffs, San Francisco and Buffalo, they weren't as talented as those teams. They just found ways to win. That's New York Giants football. That's something I think that the younger generation hasn't seen because they haven't seen good Giants football in their life. If they're 17 years old, they haven't seen a good Giants football team. They haven't seen that. They could be out of high school and they haven't seen good Giants football, but this is what Giants football is.
That's what the 07 Giants were.
That's what we are. That's what
the
this
07
franchise
Giants
And, you know, there's just something special about the playoffs. You know, as a team advances, I can't speak for all the reporters. I know I only speak for myself. My workload gets heavier and heavier and heavier, which I don't mind. I mean, obviously, if I minded, I wouldn't be doing it. So, but on the flip side, during the playoffs, it's just such a different atmosphere. And I've got to tell you, I've had some of my most fun moments covering the playoffs, you know, the travel. I can tell you guys stories that would just absolutely have you in stitches. I mean, especially from 2007 when we almost got arrested at the airport. That was wild.
You did?
So, I mean, it just brings a smile to my face and it just energizes me because look, it's a long season. You know, you start at the end of July, you go through training camp, which is every day, and it gets monotonous. And then you get into the season, and then you have your ups and downs. But when you get to the playoffs, it's just such a different atmosphere, it's different feeling. And it's like, I feel rejuvenated, you know, and they're not in the playoffs yet. But today I was cranking out articles. I was doing shorts on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. I was doing all kinds of stuff, you know, in anticipation of what's to come. And I said to my husband, I said, you know what? I feel energized, even though it's been a long season. And maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, God, I can't wait for the season to end because, you know, it does get wear on you after a while, especially if they're losing. But I'm energized.
Yeah, I think I'll get that energy if we win this week. If we win this week,
I'm really surprised you were not as pumped.
Oh, I'm energized for the game, believe me. But I feel like that extra amp will come if we win this week. Because then I'll be like, we're going to the playoffs. We accomplished everything you could have ever dreamt of this year. I'm nervous right now because everything is right there for us. It's staring us dead in the eyes. And had Green Bay not won last week, I would have been like even more relaxed. But the fact Green Bay won, that threw an extra team into the playoff mix, which puts that much more added pressure on this game. Because I'm going to be honest, if we lose, we're probably not going to make the playoffs if we lose this game against the Colts. Because you got to figure if two of those 4 teams win out and we lose this game, we're not making the playoffs.
Not beating Philly. I don't think they beat Philly.
Yeah, and Green Bay plays the Lions. So if they both win this week, one of them is going to win out. And then that leaves the Seahawks and Washington who could potentially win out.
I'll tell you what, though,
I don't want to leave that up for chance.
If they lose this week, they don't deserve to go to the playoffs. And there are ways they can get in.
Yeah,
if they lose, but if they lose,
I said that in the video I did this week. If they lose, they don't deserve to make it. You can't beat the 4-10-1 Colts with their backup quarterback in there and nothing to play for, and Jeff Saturday is their head coach and their best player not playing, Jonathan Taylor,
and short rest,
flying across country at home. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve it.
Yeah.
So win the damn game because you got to take care of business. That's just how it goes. Take care of your business.
Even if you go one and done, you know, normally I'm like, well, you know, if you get in the playoffs, you want to go further. But look, this team is learning how to win. They're learning under this is the first year. They're learning a lot of stuff. I won't be that upset if they get in the playoffs and go one and done. I really won't.
The
I'll be
experience
ecstatic. I'll
matters.
be ecstatic if they make the playoffs.
Just make the playoffs. It's baby steps. You're rebuilding. The first year of a rebuild, and you're going to make the postseason. Nobody thought this team was a Super Bowl team. So just like I said, just get in the playoffs. Take your chances. You have a slim chance. You are not a great roster. Slim chance. But you know what? If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you can't win the lottery. If you don't get in the postseason, you can't win a Super Bowl. So I'm not saying we're winning a Super Bowl, just like if I go out and buy $20 worth of Powerball tickets that I'm going to win the lottery. But if I don't spend any money in the Powerball, there's no way I can win it. So punch your ticket to the playoffs and let the chips fall where they may. That's the way I look at it.
And it's just,
and not to mention what kind of ramifications will that have on next year? Now all of a sudden you get guys who maybe want to win, who look at the Giants and say, "Oh,
look
this
at
is
the
a
Eagles
team on the uprise. I can make a difference." So now maybe your recruiting's a little easier.
Look at Pat. Look at the Eagles from last year.
Yeah,
the Eagles last year going into the year, everybody thought of them the way that they thought about the Giants going into this year, including myself. I said 5 wins. This team is going to finish in last place. They're not a playoff. New head coach. Blah 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 blah. They make the playoffs. A team that nobody
won their last 4 games and they got in. Didn't look like
went 9-8. They didn't beat a single team that finished over 500 last year. So on paper, Philadelphia wasn't a playoff team last year. Look at them now.
Yeah.
Look at them now. Year 2 in the same scheme. They go out and get A.J. Brown, and they were further along than we were. They already had Devontae Smith on the roster. They already had a pretty developed offensive line.
And they had questions about their quarterback too, remember?
They absolutely did.
Yep.
So, just like the Giants have had,
which is why they got all those draft picks. They had insurance in case that Jalen Hurts didn't pan out.
And they got obliterated in the playoffs last year. They got embarrassed.
Yeah, they were down 31-0 going to the fourth quarter.
So, like, for me, just get in. It's the same thing in 2005 with Eli in his first playoff game. Got destroyed. Get in, get that experience. If you take a beating, you take a beating. You grow from it. You get that experience, and it's something to build off of going into next year rather than a collapse. So you can get a better draft pick for the fans that want to lose. So you get the 16th pick. No,
I don't understand that mentality. Why would you want to?
I'll never understand the mentality, but the mentality is out there.
Somebody can explain that to me.
People are losers. I don't know what to tell you. People are losers.
Yeah, I don't know.
They want to get better draft picks.
That's just a loser.
A long letter explaining
that's a losing mentality.
Why the Giants should tank for draft picks, and my response to that person was, the Giants haven't, they've had top draft picks, and what has it gotten them?
They've had 5 top 7 draft picks since 2018.
Right.
And this is the first year we've had a winning record. We didn't have a winning record. We were not one day over 500 from the beginning of 2017 to the beginning of this year. We never spent one day above 500 as a franchise. Won 22 games in 5 years, tied for worst with the Jets. Okay. So I want to win football games. I don't know what the thing is. We got to tank. We got to lose. You want to lose, then go out and you want to live your life wanting to lose and rooting for losing and not trying because, I can't do it. That's too much. I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to try. I can't. That attitude pisses me off. You don't know until you try. So get in the damn playoffs. Win football games. You want to tell the players, I want you to tank. What is that? What kind of message does that send to the locker room? Go out there and lose, guys. I don't believe in you. So lose because I want to replace you and get better draft picks because you guys suck. I have no belief in you. I'm sure that so many players that wouldn't get around the league and all the players that are free agents or draft picks. I want to go play for that coach that says, go out there and lose, guys. Give me a break. I'm getting fired up. Patty, this is playoff bad dog.
Oh my gosh. This is great.
I hate that mentality. I hate it in life, not just on the football field. I can't. I can't.
You know what it is, bad dog? Fans that think that way, they don't think of it from the context of a locker room. They don't think of it from the context of a team as a family. They think of it in the context as Madden. They say, well, in Madden, if you get the 15th pick, you have a better chance to get that golden quarterback. So let's go out there and lose as many games as we possibly can. That's not the way it works in the real world.
No. Winning just because you draft the quarterback don't mean they're going to pan out.
9 times out of 10, they don't.
Just win a game. Hello, you play to win the game, right, Herm?
You're going to go through all this preparation and spend all this money. I just don't.
What happened, Patty, during the Chase Young Bowl? What happened?
What happened? What?
The Chase Young Bowl. What happened? Everybody wanted the Giants to lose to get Chase Young. What happened? We won and we got Andrew Thomas. How did that work out?
Yeah.
How's Chase Thomas doing? Or Chase
Chase
Thomas.
Young.
I'm gonna tell you who's better than Chase Young. Azeez Ojulari, who we got with the 50th pick after we traded back. You don't know how draft picks are gonna pan.
You don't.
Yep.
By the way, Azeez Ojulari's got 13.5 sacks, and he's only played like 18 career games, and he's got 5.5 sacks this year in 6 games.
Yeah, he's a beast. I put that on Twitter. He had 4 sacks in 4 games and 2 forced fumbles. Imagine if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Gotta stay healthy. But him and Thibodeau, I love to see me. I'm a defensive guy, so I get excited with the prospects of Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau together for the next, however many years are together, if they can stay healthy. Azeez Ojulari is a stud. And pretty much any defensive player you get from Georgia is gonna be really good. That's a really good freaking team. That's a really good college team. Them in Alabama, you get defenders from those 2 schools, you probably got something. But Azeez Ojulari is awesome.
Just imagine, guys, 2-3 years in the future, Azeez Ojulari staying healthy. Dexter Lawrence is still doing the sexy Dexy dance. Kayvon's further developed. What the hell is this pass rush going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be get an inside linebacker.
If that happens, he's going to run through a wall.
This pass rush is going to be lethal in 2 or 3 years as these players further develop. And like BadDog just said, once we get that linebacker, that'll kind of complete the defense, get a little extra added help in the secondary. Imagine if we don't got Moreau guarding the number 1 guy. We actually have a legitimate number. Like, say we go out, not that I think we're going to be able to get a player of that caliber like the Jets did, but say we get a really good corner in the draft in a couple of years. That changes this defense has the potential to be dynamite in a couple of years as they continue to build the surrounding.
We definitely need inside linebacker help, and we need another corner. But this defense is very close.
And I don't think Wink Martindale. I'd be surprised if Wink leaves. I know people say, "Well, what happens if he gets a head coaching job?" My guess is, that opportunity might have passed him by.
Yeah.
I mean, selfishly, I'd like to see him stay because he's done wonders with this defense. Get him a few more pieces, get back Darian Beavers healthy, get back Aaron Robinson healthy, and then add to it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the Beavers thing, that was disappointing because I really liked him. And I hope he has a full recovery because I think that guy could have been a steal. He's good size. And again, what I look for, and again, I'm no scout and I don't look at Madden ratings. Oh, this guy's a 6th round pick. He sucks. He dropped all the way to the 6th round of trash. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick too. How did that work out? But I like the guys that never stop. And it goes back to a winning mentality. They don't stop till the whistle is blown. They don't quit on a play. And, that's what I saw with Darian Beavers in the limited time I saw him. The guy his motor doesn't stop. And I love those guys. And I'm telling you right now, that was the knock on Kayvon Thibodeau coming out of the draft as he takes plays off. I haven't seen him take any plays off.
I haven't either.
Not one.
So he's
I'm going to tell you another guy that plays through the whistle, Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with coaching. You coach these guys up and they want to play for you and they want to play hard for you. Then they're going to play.
Also, it has to do with what's inside the chest.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't teach hard. You either have that or you don't.
Yep.
You either have that
or Irish Rover mentioned him. That's why fans love him.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys, make sure you get your questions in. We'll take some of your questions. I know, Dog, a few people have asked if you're doing a live stream by yourself this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll do it. I don't live near the.
He's not missing it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no way. I don't live near the stadium, and I have a 5-year-old. I can't just be like to my wife, "Hey, I'm taking a day off. I'm going down. I'm going down to the game. I can't do that."
She'll be like, "Don't come home."
Yeah, exactly. She'll be like, "Oh, you can come home."
I'll go live. I'll go live when I get home after they make the playoffs. We'll have a victory stream.
But yeah, I'll definitely be. You'll get playoff BadDog in that stream. You'll get to see because I am going to be wicked fired up. I can't help it. I listen.
I almost wish I could watch that.
Just picture this, BadDog. Picture what that stream is going to look like when we make the playoffs.
Oh,
our emotions for that game.
Oh, yeah. We might break the internet.
I was going to say, are you guys going to cry or are you just going to be like?
I don't think I'll cry. I said, I mean, maybe in the moment, but like I said, this year's a success if we make the playoffs.
If they won a Super Bowl, I'd cry. I've cried every time they won a Super Bowl, except for the first one. The first one I didn't because I didn't really. I mean, I just started watching them in '84. And I always tell the story. My dad cried because my dad was born in 54. And he saw a lot of crap. He didn't see, he was too young for 56. He didn't see the greatest game ever played with Amici scoring the touchdown in overtime and losing to the Colts. He didn't see the good teams with Frank Gifford and Y.A. Tittle and Sam Huff. He didn't see those Giants. He got the crappy Giants. They got Fran for a couple of years. But for the most of his life, from 64 to 83, that was a horrific team. Yeah. And when they won the Super Bowl, he said to me, he said, kid, he goes, enjoy it. You don't know if you're going to see it again. He'd never seen it. Luckily for me, I saw 3 more after. 1990 was very special to me. Freshman in high school, all the bandwagon Niner fans. Oh, my God. The Niners, the dynasty, beating them. I was just so happy. I didn't even care if they won the Super Bowl. I just wanted to beat San Francisco. And then, of course, the icing on the cake was beating Buffalo in one of the best games ever played. No turnovers in that game. And that was just the immovable force against the, what is that? The irresistible force against the immovable object. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And very special. They're all special.
They really are. And, some of my best memories come from playoff games, from going back to when I first went to my first Super Bowl. The first Giant Super Bowl I ever went to was 1990. And the adventures that I had to get down to that Super Bowl. Oh gosh, I can tell you that was wild. And then, 2007, just, that whole playoff month, I mentioned we almost got in trouble. We almost got arrested at the airport. I was with one other writer at the time, and we were on the same flight. And oh my gosh, that was an event.
Who knew?
If that book is still out on Amazon, I don't know if it is or not. And if it is, it's probably like $5 or something. You guys got to check it out, because those were some wild, wild times. And it just really, really, it's fun. There's no other way to put it.
I can imagine.
And look, it's a job. Don't get me wrong. You still have to work. You still have to do, what you have to do. But you can have fun doing your job.
Of course.
And the playoffs are just fun. And, I can remember the Super Bowl. I would be in they would have the media center would be in a conference hall or conference center, whatever, convention center. And I can remember finding an empty booth, because you either sat at a table or you sat in a booth if you had a big enough media outlet to rent one. And I would go find an empty one, and I would just sit there. And from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, just, I would take breaks for lunch and stuff like that, but just kept at it. And it was just so much to do. And I was just boom, boom, boom. So it was just really awesome. And no Irish Mike. It wasn't with Ed. Ed wasn't traveling. I don't know if Ed was even covering the Giants in 2007. I can't remember when he came on board, but it was definitely not with Ed. But yeah, it's awesome. I look forward to it again, even though it's going to be more media coming in. There's going to be more, work to be done, but I am rejuvenated. I'm ready. Dog, I'm ready to run through a wall.
There you go.
You got me fired up.
This is an impossible team not to love. I mean, because it is. Maybe fans don't realize this by now, but this, like BadDog said, this is what the New York Giants are. And it's why a lot of fans love this style of football, because this is what this is a prototypical New York Giants football team. We're not flashy. We're not the Chiefs. We're not the 49ers. We're the opposite of that. We're gritty. We're nasty. We're sloppy. The 07 team, they didn't blow people out. They won in the trenches. They beat the Cowboys. In the trenches. They got after the quarterback.
They beat Green Bay in the trenches.
They beat Green Bay in the trenches. Held the best offense in the history of football to 17 points. But both the offense and defense was the reason for that, because controlling the clock. Much like
40 minutes of possession. Same thing in 1990. The Giants possessed the ball for 40 minutes.
This is Giants football, and I think that's why I like this team as much as I have this year, is because it gives you that old school vibe. We know we're not as talented as those teams, but
and
we're
in
trending down the right path.
They weren't either. They weren't. And in 2007, they weren't. They weren't as talented as Dallas on paper. They weren't as talented. Nobody was as talented as that Patriots team on paper. But you don't play the game on paper. You don't play the game with artificial intelligence. You play that game on the field.
Yep.
You play it on the field. That's why Chris Berman quoted, that's why they play the games. Because, if you're just looking at the paper, forfeit. Why would you bother playing the game?
Right.
That's why you play the games, because you just don't know. But yeah, this team, tough, gritty, not flashy. Get it done, just win. I never care what wins are. I say it all the time. This is in college. There's no style points in the NFL. You either win or you lose.
Just win.
And that's it. Just win.
Just win.
Yep. All right. I think, Fabian, I think the tailgate's in lot L, right?
L16. L16.
L16. All right. Then I also saw a question. Somebody asked about Xavier McKinney. And just to clarify McKinney's status, his 21-day window was open today. He is not technically active. He is still on NFI, so he does not count towards the 53-man roster.
Okay.
Ergo, he cannot play until he is added to the roster. That's not going to happen this week. I don't know if it'll happen next week, but considering he's just started practicing today, I don't think he's ready to play in this weekend's game. Is next week a possibility? Could be. But if you're the Giants, again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, maybe you think about holding him for the playoffs. Let him practice. Let him get used to working with the splint that he has on his hand. And, see if you have to adjust it to a club. Then you look to maybe get him ready for a game for the playoffs.
I see a good question in the chat. I actually have the same question about the 2016 team. James Vegas says off topic, but if the Giants would have beaten the Niners in the 0-2 postseason, how far would they have gone? I think they would have been out in the next round because they would have played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think won the Super Bowl that year, and they were a really good team. Like they were better than that Giants team by a wide margin. But you never know. That's why you play the games. But I think the 16 team is a more interesting what if. And I often say to myself, what if Coughlin was still the coach? Because I truly believe we beat that Packers team if Coughlin's still the coach. I don't think they go on that boat party. I think that team is much more prepared. That team, I think, might have had an opportunity to do some damage in the playoffs. But the 0-2 team, I think, would have got knocked out in the next round by the Bucs.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, that was a wild one, too, because I remember we were all making our reservations for Tampa at halftime of that Frisco game. And then suddenly we all know what happened after that. That was terrible. That was crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, the Giants have taken a few tough losses. Obviously, I've had 4 great wins. There's 4 losses that really stick out in my mind. And I go back to 1997. We had the Vikings beat. They were up 19-3. What Chris Callaway has to do is field an onside kick. You can't. We end up losing on an Eddie Murray field goal. And I know that we were going to play Green Bay in 1997, and they ended up losing to the Broncos, but they were defending champions, and they were a really good team. And I remember saying we probably wouldn't have won, but I would have liked to have had the opportunity. And I feel the same way in 2002. This is just a game we should not have lost. And they ended up blowing it. And again, probably would have got knocked out by Tampa, but it is what it is. I would have liked to have the opportunity. The other 2 games, 1989, Flipper Anderson through the end zone in overtime and a BSPI call on Sheldon White. This is the things I never forget. 13 years old, saw that. Now, I'm going to say we were not beating the 89 49ers. That is one of the greatest teams in the history of football. So I always say I would like the opportunity. We would have got wiped off the face of the earth by that team. That team was really, I think they beat the Rams like 24-0, and then they crushed the Broncos in the Super Bowl. It was insane. And the other one, which is the biggest law and the one that pisses me off more than anything else. And that's the one to the Eagles in 2008. Not because it was the Eagles, but because that 2008 Giants team was absolutely the best team I'd ever saw on both sides of the ball. The 86 team was dominant defensively. Phil Simms had a lot of hiccups. It did not have a good year. I think he threw more interceptions than touchdowns that year. The offense found its way the last month of the season.
Yeah.
But they won a lot of tough, ugly games in 86. They came back from 17-0 against the Saints. They came back from 17-0 against the 49ers. They found ways to win. The 4th and 17 to Bobby Johnson against Minnesota. And the Giants had a really tough schedule that year. But the 2008 Giants, they had 2,000-yard rushers. They led the league in rushing. They demolished Baltimore, who hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher in like 2 years. They ran for over 200 yards against them. They won like 8 road games in a row. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Baltimore. They beat the hell out of everybody that year. And then Burris shot himself, and then that was the end of that.
Yeah.
But that one will always be what if. You want to think about what if?
Oh, that's the biggest what if.
Definitely. Just real quick, somebody asked about Adoree Jackson, if he's going to play. If he plays, and that's a big if as of right now, we'll know tomorrow what his status is. He'll probably be on a low pitch count just to see, to allow him to test that knee out. I'm not so confident that he does play, but again, we will see if that's the case. So that's a wait and see as of right now. Survivor Sam asks, what teams do we have as possible wild card opponents if we win?
Two
Well,
teams.
the Giants would clinch the 6th seed.
Yeah, Minnesota and
So
San
they
Fran.
would play
They're playing the Vikings or the
13.
Niners. That's who they're going to
the
play.
Niners would probably be it.
Because they're not going to play
Yeah.
the Bucks or whoever wins the South, because that's going to be the
The
4.
Cowboys are going to get them,
And that's going to be the Cowboys. And
and
then
and the Bucks are going to beat them.
and the Eagles are going to get the 1. So that
Yeah.
leaves either the Niners
Well,
or the
the Eagles
Vikings.
would get the bye.
Well, how much fun would this be? We get into the playoffs and win.
We'll get the Eagles in the
We
second
get
round.
the Eagles,
Yeah, that's who we would get. That's who we would get.
and then we could pay him back for all the. I've done a lot of crappy freaking Eagles stuff for 38 years.
Oh, you're going to be off. You'll be bouncing off the
If
wall.
we
with
this is a big if, and this is a long ways to go, and everything.
Yeah.
If we ever knocked them the hell out of the playoffs, I would be unbearable. I am not lying. I don't care what happened. We could lose 63-0 the next game. I would be unbearable. There'd be no Eagle fans on my channel ever again if we somehow knock them out of the playoffs. I don't expect that to happen. Trust me.
Oh
when
my!
I tell you.
Oh
We
my
obviously got
God.
to win this game and get into the playoffs, and then we got to beat whoever the hell we're playing, which is not going to be easy. But God, just give me a chance, just one chance to get some revenge on the Eagles in my lifetime.
That would be wild. Well, I hope. But hey, listen, you're young enough. You'll probably get that chance. You never know,
I'm
right?
not that young. Heading towards 50 at a rapid rate here it's crazy.
All right, listen, guys, we're going to take our final commercial break. If you have questions, pop them in the comments box, and we'll get to them as we close out the show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, Giant fans, BetOnline.net is your #1 source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game. And BetOnline doesn't stop there. It's your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including NBA, NHL, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head on over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the games start. Hey, Giant fans, thank you for making the LockedOn Giants podcast your first listen every day. Make sure to check out LockedOn Sports Today, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less. Plus, instant reactions, game recaps, and LockedOn's take of the day. LockedOn Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, you got Traina, and Dog as we get you ready for the big game this weekend. Starting off the new year right.
Hell yes. Hell yeah.
All right. God, I was going to say, Dog, are you falling asleep on me?
No, I'm ready.
Last week, a lot of people said their Christmas was ruined. This week, we're going to start the New Year's off right.
That's right.
Yes.
My Christmas
Be
wasn't ruined. I was, like I said, I was mad. It's the first time this year I was actually mad because I felt like they have overachieved, and I felt like overall we've had a really good year. It's definitely more than I expected. Daniel Jones has been better than I expected. Saquon, knock on wood, has been pretty healthy all season.
Yeah.
We're 8-6-1. We've been above 500 every week this year.
That's
and
insane.
again, this is with a whole new front office, a whole new coaching staff, no cap flexibility whatsoever. And all this, this culture change in the first year is really good. But for the first time in a long time, I was mad because I felt like we should have won, not because we got embarrassed. And I was like, on Twitter, I was mad in a good way. You never know what the way I rant that I'm. It's a healthy rant because, like I said, I felt like that went in overtime. We were winning. Yep. And that's why I got so mad. I'm like, just get the game to overtime. That's all I wanted was the game to overtime. I still would not have been happy, but I hate the way we lost.
Yeah. Oh, of course. We beat ourselves.
Yeah, I hate the way that they kicked the field. Like, just get us in overtime. We were winning that game. We got over.
Yeah.
I want another shot at them.
I do
No,
too.
you do. All right. You guys got a question from James Vegas. If the Giants make the Super Bowl in the future, would you both go?
Not now. Maybe in the future, but no, not this year. I wouldn't go, but maybe in the future. But not yet. Not now.
Well, I don't think they'll make the Super Bowl this year, but
Yeah, like
they
if I ended up ever getting press passes like Patty, yeah, I'm you bet your ass I'd be there. But the price
I
of
gotta
Super
be
Bowl tickets
would
is
you be
insane.
ready? Seriously, you'd be willing to work the hours that we work?
To go to the Super Bowl? Yeah,
Do you know the hours we work?
only if it's just for the Super Bowl week. I'm not doing it all year round.
No, Super Bowl week. last Super Bowl I did.
Is it the
was in
hours that I work?
2011. We were getting up. Okay, and I'm not a morning person. I mean, if I get up by 8:00, that's late for me. We were getting up at 6:00. Okay, had to be done with breakfast by 7:15. Then you were on a bus at 7 going to whatever, I think we went to the Patriots first. Then we had to take another bus back to the Giants to do that media session. So everything was in the morning. Then you had to go to the convention center to write. Oh my gosh.
And for you,
day.
I could imagine for you outside of all of that, which is insane.
And I wasn't podcasting in the day. Can you imagine now if I had my podcast on top of it?
But what makes it even more irritating, I would think anyway, what would make it even more irritating for you, because you're a really good member of the media. You take your job very seriously. During the Super Bowl, you get those off the wall questions from like people that don't belong there. Like because you get the national audience and they ask all those stupid, like you must be.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Especially, I always tell the story in 2007 how a TV reporter from it was some station out in the Midwest didn't even know the positions of the players she was asking.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, is it that hard to do research? Google is your friend. Do research. I mean, especially in the age you got back then, we had Blackberries. All right. So you could access the internet. Now you've got smartphones. So if you're not sure of something, you could quick Google it and get the information so you don't make yourself sound like an idiot. And I'm sitting there going, how could you come in and ask these questions and you don't even know what position the guy plays?
Yeah. The Super Bowl, you always get the dumbest questions. Always.
Well, you know what it is you've got thousands of media there and everybody's looking for the unique angle. Everybody is. But I always say the same thing. Nobody knows the team as well as the beat writers who are there every day. So you kind of know, okay, what stories to go after and all that stuff. And, look, I'm not knocking all the media. Don't get me wrong here. I agree with you that some of the, especially the TV people are like,
well, during the Super Bowl, it's
wild.
known for that.
Absolutely wild. I remember the bride walking around from the Mexican station. I'm like, really? That's your thing? But I guess it's for entertainment. I guess everybody has different everybody has different needs and audiences. So
yeah.
As long as they don't get in my way to do, or for me to do my job, it's like, you want to make an idiot out of yourself, go ahead. It's all good. But
to answer the question, I think I might try to get to a Super Bowl if they played at it. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'd have to okay that with the boss. I have to find tickets that I wouldn't have to take a second mortgage out of my house to afford. I'd probably be sitting next to God, but I don't know. In the future,
here's what I'll say. If they make this, and they're not making the Super Bowl this year, but if they make the Super Bowl in the future, I don't know if I would go to the game because it would be outrageous. The tickets are outrageous. They're $7,000-$8,000 like for the nosebleeds. But
you know what? Actually, for the media, a lot of people don't know this, but excuse me, you can get a week of pass and skip the game if you want to. I don't see the point in that. But people have done it.
I might do that just for the experience of the Super Bowl.
Oh, it's wild, man.
I might I might do if it was at like a desirable location. I might be like, you know what, I'm going to spend 3 days there, take it all in, go to the stadium, and just watch the game at like a sports bar or whatever. That I might do. I don't know if I would be able to afford the price of a ticket. The tickets are outrageous.
They are. I mean, but sometimes they're not. I mean, I managed to get my husband the last couple of games face value ticket. So you never know.
Like I said, I'd have to look. I mean, I have to look. If there's $7,000, I'm not getting one.
I don't know what the face value is nowadays, but
face value is not that much. But that's the price on the secondary market.
Yeah, I don't know what the face value. I think it's up to 1,000, but I don't know. But anyway, Fabian asked me, "Is it your dream job? How did you get it?" I enjoy what I do. I've always wanted. I'll tell you a funny story. I actually, growing up when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a Mets beat writer. Yes, honest to God, I wanted to be a Mets beat writer, and then the strike kept happening. The strike came, and I got turned off the
94.
baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my father was so into football, and so I learned the game from him. Also, when I got to high school, there was a coach that was one of my teachers, and I said, "Teach me the game." I wanted to really learn the game. So, he would sit with me and teach me what he could, and I would sometimes go to, football practice and sit there and watch and everything like that. And then I got involved with marching bands, so that further put me into the football scene. But as to how I got into this, it's kind of a funny story. I always wrote for my college paper. I covered sports, all sports, when I was at Rutgers, and then when I was this had to be the 90s. Remember the old America Online and
Oh
Prodigy
yeah.
and all that stuff? I was on both of those. So I participated in the bulletin boards, and you never know who's watching. You never know who's reading the message boards. And it turns out that the late Jim Sabo, God rest his soul, saw my posts that I was putting on Prodigy, and he reached out to me, and he said, "Boy, you really know your stuff." He said, you know, "Are you into writing and stuff?" And one thing led to another. And then I suddenly got a unpaid gig with the old Giants extra paper. I don't know if you guys remember the Giants extra paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a column, an opinion column, unpaid, but it was part of the deal,
A resume builder.
yeah. So I figured, okay, I'll do this for a little while, and we'll see if, and meanwhile, my parents are screaming at me, "Why are you doing this? You're not getting paid." I'm like, I've got to build up my reputation and build an audience. So from there, I found out about Inside Football, which, by the way, still exists today. Inside Football is X's and O's. And it's really, if you haven't seen Inside Football, drop me an email, because I actually run Inside Football. It's a separate publication, and we break down X's and O's. So if you're into that stuff, you will love Inside Football. And the editor of that paper was looking to build a website at the time. Well, I had learned how to build a website, and I wrote him a letter, and I said, "Hey, I know how to do it, hire me." And I remember we sat in my father's office in Manhattan. He worked for a law firm at the time, and over a pastrami sandwich, the editor of Inside Football, God rest his soul, had a pastrami sandwich. I had a corned beef on rye from, I think it was from the Carnegie Deli we got the sandwiches from.
Can't go wrong
And
there.
one thing led to another. So he said, "Okay, write me," so he gave me a writing test on the spot, and I wrote what he asked me to, and he read it, and he goes, "Wow, this is good." So then he gave me my first assignment, and my first assignment, I'll never forget it, had to go to the Giants locker room. This was right around the start, I think, this was the tail end of the Reeves era. And I went to the locker room, and at the time there weren't women, a lot of women on the beat, if any women on the beat. And I remember going in, and they knew that I was coming, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, there's a woman in the locker room." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, what should I do?" So I'm looking down. I could tell you every intricacy of the carpet in the old Giant Stadium locker room, because my head was always down looking at that carpet, because I was afraid if I looked up, I might see something I shouldn't have.
Right.
So, I did that, and I remember interviewing some players, and I wrote it up. I gave it to the editor, and the editor of Inside Football was the founding editor, very fussy guy. He was an English professor.
Okay.
And when he read my stuff, he was like, "This is really good." He says, "You got the hang of this." So he hired me on a per diem basis, and one thing led to another. And meanwhile, AOL started to recognize me as a writer, and I used to do their football newsletter. I managed the staff. So one thing led to
AOL.
another, it led to another, and then ultimately, one day somebody came to me and wanted to hire me to do a story, and they were willing to pay me. So that's when I knew I made it to the big time.
AOL.
Wow. So there you go.
That's a blast up there.
Everybody's got to start. So you got your start from dial-up internet.
Yeah.
That's where you got recognized from the old AOL days.
Participating. Well, back in the day, it's interesting. Back in the day, I didn't list myself as Patricia Traina. I listed myself as Pat Traina. Because back in the day, it was like, if you were a woman covering football,
You
it
were
was like,
laughed at. Yeah.
you dealt with, I still deal with sexism, but not as bad as I did back then.
Yeah.
So ultimately, when I started to build up and show people that I knew what I was doing and what I was talking about, I started saying, oh, by the way, I'm Patricia, not Patrick, So, so that's my story in a nutshell.
That's a cool story.
That's
I like
awesome.
it. That's a great story.
And real quick,
people, practice, keep writing. Those of you who want to be sports writers or broadcasters, keep doing what you're doing. Practice. You might have to work for free for a little while, but if you keep at it and you get better and better and better at it, you will get the recognition.
right? You got to work.
Absolutely.
No, I quit. I give up. Oh, this is too hard. Oh, if you want something, you got to work for it. It ain't just going to come knocking at your door. By the way, to answer the Super Bowl question, so we're putting this one in stone. February 9th, 2025, Super Bowl 59. Giants will be there. So will I. The Superdome in Louisiana. There we go.
So
I'm putting it out there right now.
Louisiana? Oh my God.
So is it fair?
Notre Doggus.
So that's the 2024. So that's 2 years.
2025 Super Bowl.
Have you ever been to New Orleans?
Yes, I have, and it's one of my favorite places I've ever been to. It's one of my favorite cities. I always say I spent a week on Bourbon Street in one night. And it's a fact.
Oh man,
I love New Orleans.
When I've been there, if I'm not sitting in the casino, and I'm bad, I shouldn't be in the casino, but I go anyway. If I'm not in the casino, I'm on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the French Quarter,
didn't get a help
Royal, Bourbon Street. I love it. I mean, it's a party. It's a nonstop party. The beverages. It was like $3 for $5, a Vita beer, and the hurricanes and the grenades and
the last time
beignets and the Cajun food, which I love. And
the last time we went, I don't know how this happened, but we got the JW Marriott down there, and somehow it was New Orleans is always kind of full, but sold out. We got the presidential suite.
Nice.
It had something like, I forget how many bathrooms, but it had something like 3 or 4 bathrooms. It was like an apartment. I was like, holy smokes.
That's awesome. I forgot.
This is awesome.
When we went down there,
I've got some great road stories.
I want to say the one we stayed right next to the Superdome, and I want to say that was a Holiday Inn. I'm not positive. It was enormous, whatever. What maybe it was the Marriott. I don't remember. The room was gorgeous. It wasn't a presidential suite, but it was gorgeous. And I remember we got into the room. And it had our names on the TV. It's like, welcome, Natalie and Kevin. Natalie's my wife. Welcome to New Orleans or whatever. And, I remember the first week that we get in there, unload our stuff, right to dinner. I'm like, I need me some Cajun food because I love spicy food. I'm like, I need me some Cajun shrimp, chicken, and whatever I can get. And it was amazing.
Oh,
New Orleans is fun. New Orleans is a lot of fun.
It really is. It really is.
That would be a great
you gotta go, Chris. You gotta go. The beads, the beads. You can buy liquor in CVS if you choose to.
But my favorite city to visit was always whenever they had to go out to Arizona to play the Cardinals, or in the case of the Super Bowl when they played the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Best Mexican food. I love Mexican.
Oh yeah, I'm
food.
sure.
Me too.
Best Mexican food. I mean. There's a good place by me, but it's more Tex-Mex. But out in Arizona, oh my goodness!
Yeah, I've been to Arizona once too, maybe like 5 years ago, and I went to some famous Mexican place there. It was ridiculous. It was actually he wasn't there when I went, but our waitress told us that Steven Seagal went there like once a week because I guess he lives in Arizona. So, but it was a really famous Mexican place.
Even my husband loved it. I mean, my husband's fussy about Mexican food, and he was like, wow, this is good. I said, yeah, it was a recommendation by the locals out there, and it was just amazing.
We always talk about food, don't we? I love
it. I was gonna say some of the best Mexican food I've had are down in San Juan. I mean, that's my favorite place. The Puerto Rican food is oh my god, I'm making my mouth water just thinking about that.
I know. I'm talking about food, and
I haven't traveled a lot in my life though. I've only been to a few cities, and that's just Yeah, San Juan is probably I always say that. This is my favorite place to vacation. I love San Juan. I mean, I've been all over Florida. I've been to Vegas. I've never been to California. You know, I stream Laker games. And I was like, you ever been to I've never been to California. I've never been farther west than Vegas. I've never been to Cali. I would like to sometime, but I've
been there once.
I've been to Cali. I've been to Frisco, LA, San Diego.
Oh, you've probably been everywhere. You're
I've
like
been
Johnny Cash, Patty. You've been everywhere. I've been everywhere.
The only stadiums I haven't been to is Buffalo, and I want to say Kansas City. I think
you're probably not missing much with Buffalo.
Yeah, but Buffalo, because whenever the trips were, you know, it was always like late in the year, and I'm not dealing with snow. Sorry.
Yeah,
worst quarterback of fewer than 100 yards passing in each of first 3 starts since Nathan Peterman. That's
By the way, this is an interesting point by Jake Patterson. The last time we beat the Colts was before he was even born. They didn't beat the Colts, I think, during the Eli Manning era. I think
he lost to Peyton.
He never beat his brother.
Eli never beat.
And then we had to face Andrew Luck.
So that's the reason, Jake.
This is the first time I think they're facing the Colts since Eli retired, right?
I think it is. Yeah.
So yeah.
And I can tell you the last time we played the Colts, we let that one get away. We were up 27-14 and we lost 28-27.
Yes, I remember that.
That was the year Chris and I started doing the games together. And that was one that we
And the Colts going into that game were the hottest team in football.
Yeah, they did.
They won like 6 or 7 straight, and the Giants should have won that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're due. We're due to beat them. That's the
we're gonna beat them. We're better.
Whenever anybody
does if you watch yesterday's show, yesterday I had Zach Hicks on from LockedOn Colts, and gosh, he wasn't very optimistic that the Giants that the Colts would beat the Giants. And even today, when I was talking to the Colts radio crew, he almost sensed like they were resigned to that, you know, the Colts might not be as competitive. But look, like you say, dog, that's why you line up and you play the game. You don't take anything for granted. You
nothing
just
for granted. If they give the Colts don't play hard or they're giving up or they don't care, then that's their problem. But you guys got to go out and take care of you can't worry about what the Colts are going to do in this game. You got to worry about what you're going to do.
The Giants got to put this game away early, because I feel like if they get out to a hot start, they're up by 14 points, the Colts will just roll over and die.
Yeah, and we can't just be up by 14 and then take our foot off the throttle either.
At that point, I think the Colts will just be like, all right. Whatever.
Yeah. Do you guys agree with me?
If we give the Colts reason to play in this game, they're dangerous because they got
trap game. No, this is not a trap game because they're not looking forward to the next week. This is do or die. This is all or nothing. This is it.
No.
Right in front of them.
Our trap game was the Lions game. That was our trap game.
That was the trap game.
This is not a trap game.
This is not a trap. This is a playoff game.
This is a playoff game. They win in the playoffs. They don't need to look forward to the Eagles. They need to take care of this one.
Yeah.
And Growl goes on to say that Nick Foles is a giant killer. But yeah, Nick Foles is playing behind a shoddy offensive line, if I'm not mistaken.
This is like
this isn't the Eagles.
This is like the Bills game that we played before we played the Patriots in 2007 when we clinched. I think we clinched the playoffs when we beat the Bills, and then we played the undefeated Patriots. The Bills game was not a trap game. We needed that game to make the playoffs.
Right.
It's the same thing here. We're playing the team with the best record the next week against the Philadelphia Eagles. We can't expect to win that game. This is the game we need to win. So this is certainly not a trap game.
No.
Yeah. It's not a trap game. And, you know, look, winning it, it's that simple. It doesn't get any easier.
Yeah.
And
the Giants get up 14-0. You got to keep putting your foot. You got to push down the throttle harder.
Don't let up.
You got to make them quit.
Not let up.
Yeah.
That's
you
what
have
it
to
is.
basically beat them into submission. Get them
right.
Like you said, just get them to just throw up their hands and say, "That's it. We're done."
Yep.
Yeah.
And
just get them down early. Don't give them a chance because then they're going to be like,
you know what? I can't wait to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. I of course I'll be at the game.
They better be handing out towels. They better be handing out towels for this game.
I think they are. Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to say, but they've been pretty good. I think they've handed out.
Oh, I know they've been very good this year.
Every home game, but yeah, I'm curious to see the atmosphere because I remember the last home game that they played in the playoffs and how loud it was. It was so loud. Now in the press box, it's soundproof. It's supposed to be soundproof, so we can barely hear the crowd.
Right.
But it was so loud. Not only could we hear the crowd, but you could feel the vibration from people stomping their feet and clapping and everything. And at times it felt like the floor was going to try.
That was the old Yankee Stadium was like that. Sometimes you're in the upper deck, you'd think that place was going to crumble. That was insane. That old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, it sent, if you didn't have chills going down your spine and that type of atmosphere, then you just you have no feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I get that just watching it on television. You know, when I hear the crowd get all amped up and everybody's going crazy, that's I do. I get chills. I'm getting chills thinking about it right now.
Oh, it's wild.
I get chills thinking about all that. You know, like I said, the Super Bowls, Matt Barr's field goal always gives me chills. And the funny thing is, I have watched the 1990 NFC Championship game a million times. I always tell the younger viewers, you want to see anybody, it's never wasn't around for that. You want to see a good old fashioned smash mouth, hard nosed defensive football game. Watch that. It's one of the best games ever. It's low scoring. Giants didn't even score a touchdown in that game. But every time I watch it, and the same thing in the Super Bowl, I know how it ends, and I'm still nervous. I still get nervous watching. I know what happens. It happened 30 plus years ago, and I know how it ends. But every time Matt Barr lines up for that, like I know Steve Young completes a big pass to Brent Jones, and I'm thinking to myself, how the hell did the Giants ever come out and win this game? And then you watch it unfold, and it's great. But yeah,
Muted Growl brings up. I remember Shea Stadium.
Yes,
during big games when I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's absolutely right. You would feel the stadium shaking.
That's how the Yankee Stadium. It shook.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. All right, I want to address this from No Fly Zone. No Fly Zone. Listen, hang in there until I get to doing the cap thing, because I'm going to explain to you why your logic is incorrect there. You know, I can't do it now because I don't have like numbers and stuff prepared, but no, it's not going to be. Don't worry about 15, 16 million per or 30 million per. That's not how the cap works. I'll explain it. I promise I'm going to do a cap show once the offseason rolls around at some point. I have a post in the YouTube channel for topics, if specific questions you want to ask for that show. Take advantage of that, folks. It's in the YouTube channel in the community section. Post your questions. I'll incorporate them. And then also I'll know what kind of charts and stuff that I have to draw in. But don't sweat it. Trust me, it can be done. Absolutely be done.
Go ahead, BadDog.
No, I was just going to say, what are your better options? So you want to start over with a quarterback where you're going to be drafting about 20th and you're not going to get one of the better quarterbacks, the better quarterbacks coming out of this class. And you want to just, listen, if they don't sign Saquon, they don't. I think Daniel Jones is coming back here. I can't say anything about Saquon. Josh Jacobs is out there. Tony Pollard's out there. There's other good running backs out there. I don't think there's I'm not going to say there's a guarantee that Jones will be back here, but I definitely feel 90% that he'll be back here. Saquon, I'm 50-50 on. And as far as why does he want to bring those guys back? Because he feels he can win with them. That's why any GM is going to pay their guys.
Your argument, No Fly Zone, your argument, he wants a clean slate for the cap. Well, somebody's got to play quarterback, right?
Right.
So why not?
I look at it just
not
like
making sense with the question. I'm sorry, my friend. I don't understand what you're trying to ask here. Yes, he wants a clean slate with the cap would be no, dead money on the cap or no having to restructure. That's what a clean slate is, not what you're proposing here.
I look at it like the Raiders situation last year, and that's what I said going into the year. People ask me, what does Jones got to do? I said, he's got to do what Carr did. Carr led a team to the playoffs that nobody expected to make the playoffs outside of BadDog, who picked them, and put the team in a situation where they can't draft a quarterback, and he's got to play good to get a contract. He's done that. The general manager for the Raiders didn't draft Derek Carr, probably didn't love Derek Carr. He probably eventually would want his own quarterback, but what did he do? He gave Carr a contract. The general manager for the Raiders, I think, started this year. He gave Carr a contract in his first year because he said there's something. And
he went out and gave Devontae Adams.
Yeah. So he said, this is my best chance temporarily, and we'll see where it goes, of building this football team. Bring Carr back. It's going to be the same exact logic with Daniel Jones. We're going to bring Daniel Jones back on a short commitment and keep building this football team.
By the way, I just want to say Dak's thrown 2 interceptions and fumble tonight. So, everybody that's Dak Prescott's way better than Daniel Jones. I mean, Dak Prescott's turned the ball over more in the first half than Jones has turned it over in like a month.
He stinks.
Yeah.
And he's got pretty good receiver. I'm paying I'm doing the podcast. I look up at the screen now and again, and I just watched, and I've loved CeeDee Lamb since his days at Oklahoma, and I'm just watching that guy run routes, and I'm just sitting there going, God Almighty, can we just get a guy like that to run routes or Daniel Jones? Can we just? You can't guard CeeDee Lamb one-on-one. I'm like, can we just get a guy that does that, please? Your guy like that. You don't even need as good as CeeDee Lamb, just in the neighborhood. Can we get him? Can we get him one of those guys?
Dak Prescott's just not good.
No, I always thought he was a little on the overrated side.
I'm not going to say he's not good, but he's definitely overrated.
Overrated, yeah.
Definitely overrated.
And it's showing this year. But all right, let me get Caitlin Ma's question, because I think this is a good one. Would it be better to sign a good free agent offensive lineman for $13 million and draft a promising running back, or would it be better to allocate that money to sign Saquon? Interesting question.
It is an interesting question. It's a good question. See, that's a good question. That's a good question, because that makes you think.
It does make you think, because you could make the argument that you can get a decent running back,
Listen,
later in the draft. But can you get a running back with Saquon's skill set? And then the other side of the coin is Saquon, at what point does he peak? Because running backs have short shelf lives for the most part.
I'm the biggest Saquon fan in the world. And I'd be lying to you if I was Joe Schoen, if I wouldn't have thoughts about moving on from him at the end of the year. I'd be lying to you because of all the things that you just said. It comes down to what his market is. But if he's looking to get $14-15 million, if I'm Joe Schoen, with all the other holes we have in this team,
I don't know where these running backs are going to go in the draft. I wouldn't take a running back in the first. I wouldn't take a running back to the third round.
Yeah,
I don't know how far a guy like Travis Dye. I don't know how far a guy like Travis Dye falls down the draft boards. Like, I don't know. Obviously you need to see the combine. The combine. I always feel like, and Patty. Let me ask you this, because the last few years I feel like way too much stock is put in a 40-yard time, like a 40-yard dash, and way too much stock is put into the combine. Trayvon Walker was the first overall pick, in my opinion, the first overall pick, because he blew up the combine.
That's exactly.
And Kayvon Thibodeau only ran a 40. He didn't do anything else. So Kayvon Thibodeau, who was the consensus number 1 overall pick, fell to the Giants because he didn't do the entire thing, which spoke to he doesn't try. He takes plays off. Trayvon Walker killed that. And I don't know how good of a year. I'm not saying Trayvon Walker is going to be bad. He's a Georgia Bulldog. They're all good. But I don't know what kind of year he's having. But I love Thibodeau. And I feel like that's why Thibodeau went 5 and not 1, because of the combine. And I feel like way too much stock is put in the combine.
To an extent, Gettleman used to call it the underwear Olympics, but there are certain drills for certain positions that can tell you a little bit or show you a little bit more, like agility drills, certain agility drills for certain positions that you want to have a player that's agile. But I think you're right. I think, teams use that opportunity at the combine. They look at the 40 and the stuff, but do they put a lot of stock in it? No. The combine is primarily interviews. It's medical check, which is huge, because they can't do that down in the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl, I think if you wanted to put more stock in an event, the Senior Bowl would probably be it, because those guys are at least working on the field and you can watch the practice. And
we definitely put stock in that. We drafted 3 quarterbacks in a row that were Senior Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
So
and Shane puts a lot of stock in that. Absolutely.
That makes sense, because to me, why don't they run the 40 in pads?
They don't. Exactly.
You're not running down the field in your underwear.
Exactly.
Why don't they run it on pads? And again, I also think this too. When a quarterback is throwing the ball in a controlled environment and they're just throwing why don't they have a defensive back just run with he doesn't need to cover the receiver, but have a defensive back in the area. And that way you can tell how accurate a quarterback really, like, these are things I'm always thinking about. Why don't they just have a defensive back shadow the wide receiver?
Yeah.
And see how accurate the quarterback is? Because anybody can step back there, pass rush.
To your point, they stagger the positions as they come in. So defensive backs don't come in until after the quarterbacks are long gone. But that's a valid point.
Yeah,
it absolutely, because it is a controlled environment. And, that's why these scouts, certain drills, they put more stock in than others. On Giants country, you'd have to go back and look, but I know we had a scouting intern that worked with the Giants The last couple of years, he did a series of articles for me on what to look for and what drills are important. You'd have to, if you look up, I'm trying to think what the keyword is, combine drills, I think it would be. It's on giantscountry.com. You can kind of read as to what's most important from the combine. It was a pretty good series, as I recall. I think it was like 3 or 4 articles he wrote, and it was very informative. So, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know everything that goes on in the combine. Obviously, I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know about the interviews. I don't know what they look for in each drill. But I just feel like the vertical jump, they look for the athleticism. And I've spoken to this before. Being athletic and strong doesn't make you a football player.
Right. So they, it's what they do is certain drills, like I said, they look at the explosiveness, the jump, the broad jump,
the 3-cone drills are valuable.
When they reach up and they hit the bells and whatnot, they're looking for explosiveness.
Right. The 10-yard splits on the 40, that you can look at. Like the first 10 yards, that means something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's a foundation or just, something, an extra piece of information, but the interviews are important because it's kind of like speed dating. You only get 15 minutes for your formal interviews. And what they do is they show film. They put film on.
These kids don't know what that is. Speed dating. AOL. I do. I'm older. We're talking about AOL and speed dating. Patty and we're aging ourselves today.
I find it hard to believe you're around my age. You can't possibly.
I'll be 47 in July.
Yeah, you're nowhere near my age, my friend.
Yeah. I'm stuck. I'm no spring chicken anymore, though. I'm nowhere near Chris's age. I'm not.
Chris is the baby of the group.
He is.
He's got the baby face.
He was born in the 80s. He's a baby.
He was born in the 80s. Yes.
Nah, I wish I could say I was born in the 80s, but no.
Nah, you want to live the 80s, baby. I was a kid, but
I'm a kid of the 70s, man. The 70s, man, they rock.
I was born in the 70s, but yeah, the 80s was.
I was born in the 60s. Okay. I just dated myself. Okay. So anyway, but yeah. So the speed dating concept where they put film up on the screen and basically they test your football knowledge. Sometimes they'll put like film of the player's actual, like let's say it's a quarterback. They'll put actual college film from his games and what were you thinking there? So they try to tap into
that's valuable.
Right. And that's stuff we don't get to see.
Yeah, because I remember that was one thing I didn't like what I heard about Kyler Murray during the combine. I thought that was valuable because everybody was like, they were disappointed with the way that he was able to read defenses and yada, yada. And that's translated to the NFL. You saw when he got his contract, there was a stipulation in the contract that he needs to spend a certain amount of hours in studying the playbook.
And that goes to the point. No matter how athletic and gifted you are, because he's one of the most gifted quarterbacks I've ever seen. He's not the tallest guy, but man, his speed, his arm, his hip torque, it's sick. But if you don't work, you can't just rest on your talent at the NFL level. You have to work.
He walked by me. Now I'm 5'8" with shoes on. And I remember Kyler Murray walking by me coming off the podium. And I forget what they said he measured in. I think they said he was like
5'10" and a half. I think.
I think they said he was like 6 foot or something.
Oh, there's no way he could stretch that.
And I just remember looking at him and I'm like, I'm taller than him, because I remember having to look down a little bit. I'm saying there's no way this guy is 6 foot.
Kyler Murray's 5'8" and a half. Kyler Murray's 5'8" and a half.
Yeah, I mean,
but still,
he was about my height.
He's an extremely gifted quarterback. It's ridiculous, but you got it. It just goes to show you have to take that seriously. You can't just go, "Yep, I was a number 1 overall pick, and now I'm here." You have to work.
A lot of draft picks. You see that throughout the years, not just number 1 picks, but other guys who have had that problem as well.
Tom Brady was drafted 199th overall. How hard does Tom Brady work?
Yeah, it works everybody.
You don't win 7 Super Bowls and play till you're 45 years old and be the greatest in the history when you're drafted 199th overall. He ran a 5.26 40. He didn't blow anybody up. No one even know who the hell he was. He's a backup in Michigan his entire career, and he became the greatest quarterback in the history of football.
Absolutely.
Because of work.
Yeah. That definitely had more to do with it than anything else.
Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice wasn't running 04.340.
Michael Jordan
Jordan was the best, and he worked harder.
But Michael Jordan didn't even make his high school basketball team.
Right.
And he outworked everybody.
With anything.
Yeah.
You can't just walk off the street and say, "Here I am." Pay
doesn't
me
work
and
that way.
Adore me. You have to work at it. Rover Shane is going to speak after the season wraps up. Last time he spoke was during the bye. So the next time he'll speak is after the season is over at some point.
Which
I don't know
is
if it'll be the day after or it'll probably be that week usually is when they usually have them on. But
you're gonna remember better than me because you go through this every year. But I'm pretty sure like it's usually like 2 or 3 days after the season's over.
Well, it depends on the GM.
Yeah, well, Mara usually talks too.
Because remember, Shane and Daboll usually like to talk together, so it's possible we might get them together.
Right.
So
I'm telling you,
I don't know what the plan is. You know, I'm too busy right now enjoying the possibility of the season being extended. So, all right, listen. I don't know. I'm assuming you guys are going to do a show after this.
We're doing it tomorrow.
Tomorrow after the Lakers. Yeah,
I was going to say we should get to predictions soon, right?
We could do it now if you want.
I'll say this real quick. John Mara, I think that was one of the biggest offseason things was his press conference when he pretty much said, this isn't working. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for the fans. We've done nothing but set Daniel Jones up the fit. Him taking accountability for what this franchise has been the last 5 years. I think that's so underrated that a guy, an owner of a football team who's got hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, whatever he has, he doesn't need to take accountability. He could just sit back and not say anything and say, well, whatever, these guys aren't getting it done. He could be that guy. And he came right out and said, this has a lot to do with me. I'm embarrassed. The fans should be mad, and I'm like, he took accountability for it. And I feel like, although he's probably involved in what's going on, he's taking a step back and he's trusting his people to do what they do. So he's kind of in the back. And I don't know how much involved he was anyway, but him kind of admitting that this team needs a change in direction and a change of culture. I felt like that went a long way to the way he did his hiring and everything else. And that's why I'm excited for the future. I think we have the right people in place everywhere.
I think so too.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this year, but going forward, finally, I think they're this way.
Yes, absolutely. I want to grab this one from Chris D. How many big time free agents can we potentially get in 2023 after we sign who we have to already on the team? Is 3 realistic? Chris, too early to tell because I got to see who's out there. Number one, I've kind of said this, and this applies also to the draft. I haven't looked at free agency yet because this team is playing meaningful football. Normally in the past, when the season was over,
Halloween,
I just have to look at it. So I haven't looked really at the cap.
My answer to you guys and Christy is I hope we don't sign any big free agents. Maybe one. I can see one at least. I don't want big free agents. That's not what the best teams do. If we get one
big free agent, Chris, is Daniel Jones.
Yeah. I want in-house free agents. I want to keep guys in-house, keep building our core, but I don't want to go out there and spend big bucks on somebody else's free agent. No. Let teams start taking our players in free agency. Let us get those comp picks. Let us keep building through the draft. And when we feel like we're there, get the finishing pieces to put this team over the top. And maybe sprinkle one big piece here, one big piece there. But I don't want a ton of free agents like we did in 2016.
No,
I don't want a ton of free agents like we did in 2021. That's
doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work.
The
one free agent that I keep saying, I mentioned a lot, is McCole Hardman. I just feel like he's not going to cost a fortune. You want to talk about a guy that has explosive speed, and he's really good in special teams. He's a really good kick returner, so he can help out the Giants a lot. And again, he's not a number one guy, but that's a guy that may not cost tons. He's going to cost something. It's not like he's going to be $3 million. But that's a name that I just keep looking at is McCole Hardman. I feel like he would be a good fit with the Giants, but we'll see what they do.
Depends on his market. Yeah,
it depends on his market. It depends on what we do. We may draft a wide receiver in the first.
And here's the other thing: there might be free agents that you're looking at now that maybe get re-signed before the start of free agency. Similarly, there might be guys that are cut from their teams,
right,
that become free agents that nobody saw coming. So it's too early, I think, to really dive into that. And like I said, right now, this team they're playing meaningful football. I don't want to talk about the draft. I don't want to talk about free agency. I want to talk about what they have to do to beat the Colts. I want to talk about the potential playoffs.
I want to talk about, not potential.
So long,
not potential, Patty.
Playoffs.
Playoffs. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. Playoffs on the horizon for the New York Giants. That's right. We winning.
I mean, look, there'll be a time and a place, and we'll be happy to talk about the draft and free agency and all that stuff. So I'm not trying to blow y'all off, but
I see Joseph Santiago saying it's working pretty good for the Eagles. I think he's referring to building through free agency. They did the opposite. They traded for A.J. Brown. They traded for A.J. Brown. He's like a finishing piece, but they drafted Devontae Smith. They drafted their quarterback. They drafted basically their entire offensive line. They drafted their entire defense.
Their running backs. They drafted
their running backs. They drafted their tight end. They drafted their team. They got James Bradbury off the scrap heap. Off a team that couldn't afford to keep him anymore. I don't count that as a big free agency signing.
Darius Slay was a big free agent signing.
That's one.
Jalen Hurts, they drafted. They drafted Jalen Hurts, right? They drafted Carson Wentz. They gave him a contract and they traded him. So they got picks for that too. They got New Orleans. They got New Orleans first. New Orleans, I hope New Orleans wins that division, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think they can. Carolina might win that division, though.
Yeah. All right, guys, you want to do predictions?
Let's do it.
How bad do you think the Giants are going to beat the Colts? Let's start with you, dog.
How bad are we going to beat them? Oh, I'd love to come out here and tell you this is going to be no contest. But as Chris mentioned, we're the Giants. Everything is a contest. However, this is the first time this year we're winning by more than one score. Okay. All right. We're winning this game 24-14, and we're going to the damn playoffs. Well, Jim Foss will say, listen, this team is going to the playoffs. Okay, I'm taking all my chips and I'm pushing it in the middle of the table. Who's with me? We're going to the playoffs on Sunday. 24-14 Giants. Let's go.
I'm going to do you one better.
Shut out.
And I came in very nervous. I'm still nervous about the game. Very nervous about the game. I see a head coach that I think is one of the best young head coaches in football, in Brian Daboll. And I see an ESPN analyst on the other side with Jeff Saturday. I see a team with very little to play for. I see a team with everything on the line. The Giants this year have been a team that's overcome adversity. When they've needed to show up, they have in big spots. Like BadDog said, they haven't blown out a team this year. With everything factored in, the fact that the Colts are on short rest, the fact they got their third-string quarterback in, I think the Giants are going to blow them out. I'm still very nervous about this game. I think the Giants are going to win like 31-13. I think they're going to have
that'd be the best thing ever.
Have their first 30-point game in the Daboll era, even though they should have had one earlier in the year when Saquon Barkley fell down at the 1-yard line. I think they're going to destroy this team on Sunday.
I hope you're right.
I'm so nervous. I'm going to give you my honest prediction, though, and I think we're going to destroy this football team.
It would be great. 31-13
Giants.
I would love to be able to rest in the fourth quarter and just chill with the chat and just start talking about our playoff opponent.
I'd love to be able to have my game summary written, and just have to plug the final score in. That would be awesome. I think 2 scores for sure. I don't think they hit 30. They haven't hit 30 all year. I don't think they start now, but I'm going to say 27-17.
I like it. The reason I have them getting 30 is I think they're going to get some turnovers against Foles.
They should.
I think they're going to create some extra possessions. So that's why I see them getting 30.
I can see why. I mean, the Colts, what they have, like 3 turnovers last week?
Yeah, and I think Wink's going to be ultra aggressive in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Aggressive.
Oh,
should be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
do you think he'll be ultra aggressive, or do you think they'll see if he can get there with 4? Because I don't think Los Angeles was really bringing anybody.
I don't think they're going to come with 5. I think they're going to try and come with 4. But they're going to come after him.
I think they're going to blitz him.
I think they're going to come after him. Absolutely. I mean,
because he's not fleet of foot.
Colts offensive line has not been very good, and
you saw it last week. He was not on the same page as receivers during the he's being thrown into the fire.
Yeah, he looked awful.
I think they're going to try to force the issue. I think they're going to try to make Foles make bad decisions. So yeah, I do think we're going to blitz in this game a lot.
I hope we kick their ass. I'm not taking no prisoners. Like I said, this stream you're gonna get. This is a stream that you really listen against Washington. I know that was a playoff stream. I know that was pretty much the playoffs. But I was really nervous. I mean, I was nervous. That was pretty much we could lose this. We tied them last time. Washington's playing really well. They come off a bye. There was a lot of things that were not going in our favor. I still thought we could win. I still thought we would win. But I was really I might even say I was scared.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I'm always nervous before a game, but I'm not scared, and I'm really not. And I really feel like we are going to beat this team, and we're going to beat them handily. So you're going to see playoff BadDog, and then you're going to see playoff BadDog when it really counts in 2 weeks. And I'm hoping we play Minnesota, and that's what I'm hoping.
Let's get there.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I should sell tickets to that event because I have a feeling that's going to be epic.
What's that?
That's going to be epic.
What's that?
All right. So we all feel good about Sunday, obviously. Chris is still a little nervous about it, but
I'm just because I will be very relieved if we get off to a good start. Part of me is saying to myself, I want to start with the ball in this game, even though I never say that. But I want to just deflate the Colts from the start.
How about they get the ball and we pick it off?
That'd be better.
Turnover right
That'd
away.
be even better. But I want to get out to the early lead and just because I think if the Colts take the lead or they're playing like this is gonna be their Super Bowl essentially.
That's
like this
is
all they have left to play for.
Start.
They have the opportunity to knock the Giants out of the playoffs. Like if you give them an opportunity to play in this game and don't even give them that opportunity, get out of the gate fast and don't look back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't
yeah. And
give them a
can they
chance.
get an easy win? Please.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice.
I would like, it's such it's when you're writing what we call a running, it's just to have to change the lead back and forth and just oh my gosh, it's like, is it any wonder why we're supposed to file like the first story after the at the buzzer, and I almost never make it at the buzzer because I got to go back and I got to change something because something has changed somewhere along the line. But it would be so nice to see a blowout to where I could just say Giants win. I can fit it within. And like I said, maybe I'll go back to what I did in 2007 when I was writing 2 leads and one would get thrown out because it would never see the light of day, and just write the opposite of what I think is going to happen. I'll do that just to, I'm not superstitious, but why not?
I am superstitious.
Hey, if I can't have fun, then what am I doing?
Joseph Santiago's right. He says just win, and that's it.
I don't care what the score is at the end of the day. I mean, I would like it to be a comfortable win for once, but a win's a win's a win. I agree.
Just win.
Yep. Just win. Win and in.
Yep.
All right, folks. Appreciate you as always coming by. This was fun. I had fun as always. And guys,
wait till next week.
Oh,
let's go.
Next week, if we make the playoffs next week, I'm popping open champagne.
And he's doing the sexy Dexy, and he's doing the sexy Dexy dance.
Guys, we didn't bring out the shades.
Where's my shades?
We didn't bring them out, man.
I know they're down here. I got to find them now. I don't know what I did with them. Oh, here they are.
Next week, if they win, we're going to have to wear the shades, right?
Absolutely.
See,
I'm bringing the shades for the game.
I have to get the ones that I could put over.
But we're going to have a victory celebration next week. We're going to be drinking champagne. We're going to be just saying, all right, we get to relax for a week.
I hope the heck we didn't jinx this team, by the way. I don't think we did, but it's going to be
I don't believe in jinxes. I mean, I know I say it all the time. I'm like superstitious, but that's for all in good fun. Listen, at the end of the day, anybody that thinks that they or any individual has any say in the outcome of a football game, come on.
As I've said before, if my words had that much power, I would not be on YouTube. I can tell you that. If my words had that kind of power.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing you worry about, you hope the players don't think the way we're thinking. We want the players to think they got to play the game of their lives to win this week.
That's what the coaches. That's why you got the coaches.
Hey, Chris, did you actually make this promise?
What? Chris, don't forget that you said you were going to dye your hair. No, I didn't. I said if we win in the playoffs, not to make the playoffs. I said win. If we win a playoff game, I said that. I will.
You're going to dye your hair.
I will dye my hair blue for a week if the New York Giants win.
You better be careful, man.
Win.
You ever dye your hair before?
I've never dyed my hair.
Just be careful. That's all.
And I will not. I don't know what, because I have a job, so I don't know what week I will make it a certain week where I don't have to worry about losing my job, but I will do it. Yes, I will make good on that if they win a playoff game. Not make
it. You got to come on the show and you got to show it off.
That'd be awesome. Listen, unfortunately, I didn't have the goatee for the show. I did have it for the game. I did
You
have
look like you shaved. Did you shave for the show?
yesterday. I did.
Oh, okay. Because
Because
I noticed Papa Guzzo didn't say anything about it.
Tuesday I shaved because I had the goatee. I said I was going to wear the goatee for the game, and if they won, I would keep it. Chris said he would grow one if they won. Obviously they didn't, but it was Christmas Eve, so as soon as I was done with the stream, I had to leave. Christmas Day, my son opened presents, and then once that was over, we had to go to my father-in-law's and my mother-in-law's. I didn't get a chance to shave that day either. And I was like, the hell with that. I'm just going to wait till I shave like my face on Tuesday, and then I shaved the whole thing off.
Oh my goodness.
My wife, it was funny. My wife, though, I told you, she, when she met me, she saw it, didn't like it. And I came out of the bathroom with the goatee. She just went, I'm like, you don't understand. This is for the Giants. The face is hilarious. I was just like, it was almost like, what are you doing? It's pretty good.
I thank the good Lord my husband understands. He's hilarious. I mean, the sacrifices that guy made. I knew he was a keeper because when he just, I always used to say to my father and my mother, I said, man, it's going to be hard for me to get married. And they'd be like, why? You're an attractive girl, at the time. And I said, I'm never going to find a Giant fan. And I met my husband and I said to him, do you like football? He's, oh, yeah, I like football. What team do you like? Oh, I watch the Giants. I said, do you like the Giants? Yeah, I like the Giants. Okay, cool. So we got along. Now, does he know about the Giants as much as I do? No, because he'll every once in a while he'll say, who's so-and-so? What do you mean? If they signed him 2 weeks ago, you don't know who so-and-so is? Well, I wasn't paying attention. So, kind of like that. But it helps when you have a spouse that's very supportive. And I got to give him a shout out. He is very supportive because I work long hours during the season. I always joke about how I lose half of my year to football, which, it's a time requirement.
Yeah,
and he puts up with it. He's good like that. So I'm very fortunate.
Absolutely. Listen, I don't have that
That's
type
awesome.
of job. Obviously, I don't work long, but between what I do, my full-time job, which is 45 hours a week, and going to the gym and, trying to build my YouTube channel, that was the one thing I did when I got my silver play button. First person I thanked was my wife, because without her support, nothing I do is possible. I mean, she gave me my son, who's the greatest thing ever. My wife also was an extremely hard worker. I mean, she doesn't, that's one reason I married her, was because she just is such a hardworking person. It's insane. But yeah, she's always supported everything I've done. And without that support, you're never going to succeed. So it is good to find people that support your passion and things that you do.
Yep. Now we just need for Traina to find somebody who will support his passion.
Maybe this year we'll find Mrs. Traina. We'll start looking.
Well, absolutely. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to the LockedOn Giants podcast, LockedOn Giants Live. We'll be back next week talking about a win, right, dog? Right, Traina?
Damn right. Talking about the playoffs.
31-13. We're going to be drinking champagne. I'm going to tell you right now, if the Giants make the playoffs this week, which they're going to if they win, I am bringing champagne on stream, and I'm cheersing to you guys. We're gonna have a victory celebration, and I'll do it on my stream as well on Sunday night if they make it. But it's been a long time coming. Talking about this team on YouTube since the 2018. It's been crap to talk about for a long time. We're gonna celebrate if they make the playoffs. I can't wait. I
forgot the name of the woman that sings. If all the kings had their queens on the floor, they would pop champagne and raise a toast. My son loved that song. I don't remember who the hell sings it, but it's playing in my head right now. So that's what I think about. Anytime I hear champagne, I think of that song.
Well, we're gonna pop champagne. I'm telling you.
I'll have to get myself. My kid always says, "Can you play champagne?" The liquor store and get something. I don't know what. I mean, there's a wine that I would love to get my hands on, and I can't. But
well, that's right. You said you're a wine drinker.
For me,
yeah, I would like to get a. There's also a wine here in a winery in New Jersey that I'd love to get another bottle of that. That it's called Foxy Lady, and it was so good. It was a dessert wine. Wouldn't mind getting that again, but I'll see what I can come up with.
Not gonna be champagne. It ain't gonna be scotch. If we make the playoffs, maybe I'll have a nice glass. I'm Italian. So a nice glass of amaretto on the rocks. Just do that. Raise a toast.
What a year!
We're gonna have a little.
What a year it's been! It's been so fun this team this year, and Next year's going to be so much more fun.
It
It'll be
is,
more
for
fun
sure.
after Sunday.
Because I'm
Yep.
gonna tell you, I don't think this team's falling down next year. I know some fans say that because they look at the more challenging schedule. They say you're going to pay DJ. I don't think this team is falling down. You know why? The man at the top. I think Brian Daboll's legit. I think he's a great head coach. And when you have a really good head coach, you find ways to win football games.
And the GM, let's not forget him too.
And of course the GM. But you look at the Titans, people write that, and this year they're kind of falling off a bit, but every year people write them off. But Mike Vrabel finds a way to win 10 games every single year because he's a great head coach. And it's the same thing with the Steelers. Even this year, I couldn't believe it. I looked at the standings. The Steelers are going to finish 500 again because of the coach. And
They're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're 7-8. And, with Kenny Pickett, I'm like, there's no way. But I think next year we're going to be right in the thick of it again because I believe in this head coach.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks. Definitely this time we're saying goodbye. Again, thank you. We'll see you next week. Make sure you keep it here on the LockedOn Giants podcast. I'll have shorts on the YouTube channel. And of course, make sure you check out Giants Country. We've got a ton more content that's coming your way, including I'm doing a story on the improvement of the offense. So you Daniel Jones haters might not like it, but you Daniel Jones lovers may like the story. So make sure you check that out. That should be out at some point tomorrow. So till next week, everybody, have a great weekend. Go Giants. We'll talk to you next week.
Playoffs.